Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. Thank you so much for joining us for this live broadcast. This is episode 531 of this weekly Omnibus News and Analysis radio program brought to you here on ACR. We're also streaming out live on X, on Facebook, on our fan page, 21st Century Wire. Also, Facebook might re-energize a little bit now that Mark Zuckerberg has come clean on his authoritarian machinations and seems to have prostrated himself, asking for forgiveness to the world on the Joe Rogan podcast. Oh, it was a big mistake. The government pressured me too hard. I'm sorry. We're going to lift all that fact checking and censorship. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how much freedom of reach we get on Facebook, because it's been abysmal really for the last 4 years. But anyway, well done, Mark. And like the haircut, we're also going to be joined by Brian McLean, aka Hesher, from Alternate Current Radio, host of the Boiler Room. He's going to join us in the first hour, as well as Adam Clark. Ruckus is also going to join us a little bit later. He'll come in probably midstream. The theme of today's show, if you haven't seen it already, is the Faux War on Terror 2.0. And we did a space last night just to kind of warm this topic up. And as I told our audience and as our co-hosts, kind co-host Hesher and Benjamin Rubenstein, both co-hosting last night. Here's the space there. The Faux War on Terror 2.0. Pretty amazing discussion. I think this space probably went about, just over 4 hours and 25 minutes. It was amazing. We had a great panel, great discussion. We covered a very wide range of topics, but really kicked it off talking about this fake war on terror 2.0 that is clearly in the works right now. There's no question about it. All the signs are there. They're putting up all the signals. The dog whistles are becoming bullhorns, ladies and gentlemen. The dog whistles are becoming bullhorns. So that's why we're doing this program here. That's the our graphic for today's show. As you can see, you've got Donald Trump, JD Vance doing his tutorials there. Only 40 years old, I think. JD is about just around 40. So he's a young buck. Does he have the experience, the wherewithal to withstand the deep state, or will he be absorbed and become part of the deep state? He's young enough to go either direction. We'll see. He's got the protection of Trump. Is that going to be enough? We'll see. Elon Musk there off to the side, a sort of a clownish animated character. But don't let the playful demeanor fool you. He's in there for the big bucks to cash in on this global war on terror, this faux war on terror 2.0. We're going to look at a couple of media clips by some of the usual suspects that are selling this new war on terror. We'll do that with our co-host. Let me bring up to the stage right now Brian McLean, aka Hesher, is joining us from the Alternate Current Radio Network on the live stream right now. Hesher, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hey, Patrick, great to be here with you. That was an epic space last night. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that joined us. It was really good, because of the diversity of thought and personalities on that space. We were really able to kind of tie together the larger picture of what's going on in the Middle East, what has gone on in the Middle East, and what is now all the rage here in the United States, because you can't really separate them from each other, although it's hard to find a conversation that ties it all together like that one. So thanks for hosting that.
No, it was great, and I appreciate you. And Hesher, you've done a few spaces. I know you're new to that arena, to that format. What do you think about it? I've been doing them for a couple of years, but I know you've been so busy on the video and radio broadcast side. You've now recently come over to do X Spaces. What do you think about the format, the interactions? What are your thoughts?
I like it. It sort of harkens back to where we first started, audio only, and a lot of audience interaction, via the chats and the comments. I like the ability for people listening to, request to be able to come on and say something, or drop something in that, the live comments underneath it. It's also really cool because it's logged, so someone can go back if they miss it, or they can, bug out if they have to, go get food or whatever. They can come back to it, pick up where they left off. So it's great, and it's a different audience. It's interesting when you're working multiple platforms at the same time. Which is what we're doing right now, right? We're going out to, well, we would have been going out to Spreaker, but that's a whole nother story. We're going out to YouTube, going out to Rumble, sometimes going out to BitChute, always going out to X, Rockfin if we're doing Boiler Room. So one thing I've found difficult is managing all those desperate chats. It's hard. I have a lot of monitor real estate, but I don't quite have enough to see everybody's chats. But I really like, back to your question, I like the X space. I like the interaction, and really enjoying it. So I think it's a really good thing to have in the media arsenal.
And one of the it is great, and yeah, it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like the ideal radio, because you can basically queue up callers and actually see them. It's got good visuals on the people on the panel. You can bring people up, push people down as well. So it's got that kind of radio caller control at your fingertips, which is hugely convenient. And then you can bring in your threads, your tweets up in the nest and down in the comment section, build up opposition research during the broadcast and during the live space. So that's really amazing. So we try to use that to the max. And our goal on spaces is, and I think you kind of can see what we're doing here already. We're there to educate people. Some people like to do chill out spaces and just kind of chew the fat. We're there to kind of get people really, really informed in a deep, deep way. So the War on Terror 2.0. This is interesting. I'm going to bring this up on our screen here. Ahmed Mansour. Okay, who is this guy? This was a character that was introduced last night on our space. So we're talking about the Faux War on Terror 2.0. Who is this character? Well, it turns out this is the Egyptian Julani. This is the Egyptian Julani. This is a new character. It's been introduced on stage. A big shout out to Hadidi. She was on the space last night, and also Suppress News and First Blood and others, some of these other accounts that do some serious research on these extremists, and they share it on X as well. And this is a thread done by Hadidi here, as you can see. And if you scroll down, he's basically talking about an Egyptian dressed in HTS costume. That's Al Qaeda in Syria, approved by the United States and Israel. He's not here to free Egypt. He's here to destabilize it, leaving a vulnerable and easy for the taking. So to do to Egypt what Al Qaeda, what HTS did to Syria, which is allow Israel to liquidate its military. How convenient would that be for Tel Aviv and Washington, especially in light of the Greater Israel Project? And some more details here. Excellent thread. Obviously, if you go to my Twitter feed on X, you go to at 21wire. That's my Patrick Henningsen, and you'll see this thread excellent thread by Hadidi here. And also, you want to follow her. She's got a great account. And in the 2000s, Mansour was involved with Al Qaeda in Iraq, funny enough, and was an alumni of Camp Bucca, along with Al-Jilani. So isn't that interesting, Hesher? A new protagonist has entered the fore here, and it seems like he's been well branded, and they've set him up here. His resume is perfect for the kind of mainstream media Al-Qaeda ISIS story, that kind of perfect CNN backstory, when you can get like Jim Sciutto together with whoever, Pamela Brown, their legal correspondent, and talk about the terrorist bona fides of these extremists that just seemingly pop out of nowhere. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, we should bring Infidel Pharaoh on one of these one day, because he's a Egyptian American, and he has been here for quite a while, but he's got family there, and he's well versed in how the Muslim Brotherhood kind of snuck in and got their claws into Egypt after the fake revolution that was kind of caused by, or at least spurred on by, Dorsey's Twitter, Twitter 1.0. So maybe next week we can bring him on to discuss that. But yeah, very, you can kind of see where this is headed.
Yeah, yeah. So look at this. Kambuka 2011 released. And this is the interesting thing. I really love Hesher, released from Kambuka. So basically sheep dipped by the United States military while they were being trained. And apparently this place was the perfect training camp for extremists and, Al Qaeda ISIS types. So this is where all the officers, so this is kind of like the Sandhurst equivalent, if you know what Sandhurst Military Academy is in Britain. So this is like ISIS Sandhurst, Kambuka, run by the Americans, of course. And they let out Jolani and Al Mansur to basically wreak havoc after that. And so they did. And the rest is history here. Jolani, however, is no longer wearing the turban. He has been upgraded to a new Savile Row suit. So he's got a very expensive wardrobe at the moment. He's wearing a Rolex, totally presentable to Western politicians. So as the U.S. was withdrawing from Iraq, Mansur found his way to Jabhat al-Nusra and learned his trade under the tutelage of al-Jilani himself, who flitted between ISIS and al-Qaeda. So they're introducing this new character. And so Egypt, of course, is the destabilization target. Now, the question that we were asking last night, Hesher, is it really in the U.S. interest to destabilize Egypt? Is it in the Israeli interest to destabilize Egypt? Because at the moment, al-Sisi, he's a good puppet for Tel Aviv, for Washington. Why would, all they have to do is like pay him off with whatever, and then arms worth, 3 or 4 billion a year, keep the Egyptian SCAF, the Supreme Military Council, in power. This is working well for Washington, Tel Aviv. Do they want to tip the apple cart, Hesher, here and pull Syria south of Israel and Gaza? I mean, what do you think? Oh, hold on for a second.
Honestly, I'm really not sure, Patrick. I mean, I kind of figured until this happened, I kind of figured, Egypt and Turkey were sort of like right where, NATO wanted them. I kind of figured, hey, these countries are pretty much already under the thumb. But now, with this development, I'm starting to ask the same question. What does this mean? Where's this going? What happens if there's a coup or a leadership change? Like, what does that mean? What does that mean for Israel? Obviously, it would be something that they're behind. What does it mean for the ongoing conflict? Does that mean it's going to get bigger? I mean, I really don't know the answer.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out, but it does provide. I think it's a nudge. Personally, I think this is a nudge to create a story, a beginning of a story, and the beginning of the story is there's an Al Qaeda cell in the Sinai Peninsula, and the extremism has reared its ugly head in the Sinai. These ungovernable Bedouin tribal areas. They always say the tribal areas, right? And so, what's the solution? Well, it's the United States is going to have to deploy in Egypt. We have to send our forces, the British, the Americans, maybe even set up a base in the Sinai. Temporary, of course, a military establishment, maybe a couple of bases, maybe 4 or 5. And then allow Israel to have access to those bases in Egypt. I mean, wouldn't that be something? So again, it sort of falls into the greater Israel project narrative, Hesher.
Yeah, and that could be. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because all of a sudden, then you've got a Israeli / NATO / American sort of handle on that port of entry and exit. So that could be definitely something that they would be interested in, and you got to wonder, like, who does it benefit? Like, does this benefit Arab people in any way? Does this benefit people in the Middle East in any way? After the discussion last night, I would say Probably not. Our friends in the Middle East would probably say, no, this is a very bad thing for all of us.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the benefits. I think the great conversation we had. We had a couple of speakers from the region, obviously giving us their take and their opinion on what these characters and what these groups mean, and just kind of laying the groundwork and the scene for what's happened in Syria. And as this is unfolded in December, basically the Al Qaeda takeover, HTS, Al Qaeda takeover of Syria. This has given the West the precursors they're required for creating a narrative that Al Qaeda's on the move. And so it's so funny. It's the old problem reaction solution once again. They'll say, "Oh my gosh, it totally took us by surprise, Hesher. Al Qaeda's taken over Syria. Look at this. Extremism is on the move." And obviously not talking about the fact that the Al Qaeda HTS was watered, groomed, armed, trained, given endless support in the Islamic State of Idlib, the unofficial Islamic State of Idlib, right on the Turkish border within Syria's territory. And then that was viewed as a rebel enclave by our mainstream media, a rebel, quote, rebel enclave. And now they're all acting surprised about what happened. But this is exactly the result they wanted to happen. The United States, NATO, Turkey, Israel, they're waiting for this to happen. And they're very happy it's happened. Now, all the counterterrorism experts and the buffs and the, intel guys, the intel bros on the podcast circuit, basically, the Taliban are inspired by al-Jilani's takeover of Syria. Again, this takeover sponsored by the U.S. But oh my gosh, the Taliban are on the move now. There's ISIS cells. There's ISIS-K, and Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda's back on the move. We're told anyway, Hesher, they want to avenge the death of Osama bin Laden. This is supposedly the motive for this. What some people, we'll show some clips in a second, are calling the Al Qaeda invasion of America. That's going to happen in 2025. Have you got wind of any of this?
Yeah, and it was already, as it was hard for Americans and people in the West to keep a tally on all these different terror groups. Like most people only have heard of ISIS and Al Qaeda, and if you're under a certain age, you probably don't even understand what those two mean, and where they came from, who funded them, all that stuff. So their use in color revolutions and regime change and everything like that. So it really helps to have these discussions, because I can't think of a show other than Sunday Wire and some of our colleagues, mostly not broadcasting from America, who lay this out and help people understand it that want to know, because there's so many factions now. It's like you start breaking, ISIS-K, all these different groups out, and it just becomes like acronym soup almost to a lot of Americans. But I think we did a really good job with that last night, and Sunday Wire's always been here for our listeners and our viewers to help break that down, help understand it. You're always good about defining what some of these subsections of Wahhabi head choppers backed by Western countries, what it actually means, where they actually are, and what they might be up to. So it can be confusing for a lot of people, I think.
And we always try to share the information. Here's one of those threads we'll put up on screen here. We try to share the information with our audience. This was a really important thread that we shared during, I think, the last space here, based on the recent events in New Orleans and Vegas, especially New Orleans. The Vegas was a little bit of an oddball event. I think this was a more deep state, or who knows, it could even have been a psychotic event of a disturbed veteran there that unfortunately took place at the wrong location, that sparked all kinds of political intrigue anyway, revealed FBI's bogus counterterrorism racket staged terror in the U.S. And that's a link to a lecture by Trevor Aronson. And we scroll down here on this thread, we'll see some of our coverage in the past, Garland, Texas, where the FBI abetted ISIS, quote, ISIS terrorists. They're really handled by the FBI, and they got them to attack a Mohammed cartoon event, a provocation event staged by Pamela Geller and Gert Wilders in Garland, Texas. And CNN did the whole production. It was a CNN production. I mean, these people are absolutely shameless. And we find out later the FBI had a manager on site or a supervisor or something like that. And the shooter was radicalized by an FBI handler, confidential human source or informant or something or other. Anyway, they paid him 120 odd $1,000 to take this young Muslim convert named Elton Simpson and turn him into an angry young convert from Phoenix, Arizona. Next thing you know, they're heading in a car to Garland, Texas. CNN's here with their special TAC teams providing security. These guys absolutely roided up. These super security guys with all the full TAC gear, the headsets, the whole thing, just for security. Hesher, they weren't expecting a terrorist to show up, but lo and behold, a terrorist did show up in the middle of the broadcast. I mean, this was something else. This was like Orson Welles' CNN production. It was absolutely incredible. Anyway, we covered that at the time, so we shared that in this thread. We'll also probably retweet this thread, or I'll put it down in the in the actual show post here on X. But anyway, that's just some of the information that we try to share with our listeners, our viewers as well. So you can check out again at 21 Wire. You'll see some of that material there. Hesher, Garland, Texas, not far from where you are, relatively speaking. Usually a sleepy, quiet town, but it wasn't that day, that fateful day in, I think it was 2015. The year of the Daily Shooter, 2015, will go down in history. That's probably the most audacious staged CNN, FBI, domestic terror event that we saw during that whole phase. I mean, it was just comical, but it wasn't, someone actually got shot. A couple of people got shot and killed, but I just put it up there, Hesher, as a classic case study.
Yeah, and that was 2015. That's right before Trump's first term, right? And so many things were different during Trump's first term. The nation and the national news, they moved more into cultural engineering to get to sort of outrage people on both sides, over all the things that we've been talking about in the last 4 years, that actually many of us were talking about in the 5 years leading up to that. So it was all, it's like the Daily Shooter program also. The Daily Shooter program kind of took a nap a little bit, like it didn't go away, but it definitely was not at the same speed and intensity that it was going into 2015 as we came out into 2016. So it is a sort of a benchmark moment, because it's kind of a combination of a Daily Shooter and a Daily Terror sort of event. And it's like, what did they stop from happening? Well, nothing, because if they hadn't have radicalized this guy, it wouldn't have happened at all. So essentially, they ruined someone's life for a media stunt. They ruined multiple people's lives and put people in danger. So and it's not the first time they've done that. We covered on Space a couple weeks ago. We went all the way back to 1993. Went back and looked at the original World Trade Center event. We also talked about the Newburgh sting. You could also throw in Ruby Ridge. You could also throw in the Branch Davidians. I almost said Branch Covidians habit. But these events all would have been very, very different if there wasn't a media narrative and entrapment set up as the goal and the context and the framework for the event. So again, who did they save? What did they stop from happening? Nothing. They caused the deaths of many people. and the potential harm and danger of even more people. We also talked about uh, the um, the Oklahoma City bombing, right?
Yeah,
Um,
BC. Yep.
So, we see this over and over again, and that pattern is very important for the wider public to recognize that this is going on. Most of these cases that we just talked about are just out there. The details eventually come out. You find out there are handlers there. You find out there's something that reeks of entrapment there, and then you see that once that's the case in the context, you see the propaganda, because the reporting does not match that. The mainstream reporting has a completely different goal than telling you the truth about what happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll show you some other examples there. Obviously always want to point people to this book here. Go to Amazon, or any fine bookseller should have The Terror Factory: Inside the FBI's Manufactured War Against Terrorism. So this Trevor Aronson, fantastic writer, great journalist. He's done a seminal piece of work here. He's done work for a couple of different outlets: The Intercept, Al Jazeera. He's award-winning journalist, and basically chronicling the FBI's post 9/11 racket, where they're basically creating all of these terror cells, running entrapment, basically fabricating situations, and then busting them before something is supposed to happen. But as Hesher just said, if the FBI weren't involved, nothing would have happened. It's only because the FBI were creating these situations that anything did happen. They're trying to rack up these terror busts to show for the statistics for their performance for the year. So look at all these great domestic terror plots that we foiled here. Give us more money for next year's budget. I don't know. It's more than that. Obviously, this reinforces foreign policy for the U.S. It's not just about money. This is about reinforcing foreign policy. So that's why they run in the United States the Terror Factory. And we talked about OKC. We had David J. Riley as well on the space. He's a great independent journalist out of Idaho. And we talked about the domestic terror story, which is absolutely it's part and parcel with all of this, war on terror stuff that they're currently spinning up. But so I don't know if you managed to catch them. Maybe we'll do a review on it with David if we can get him on the show another time. But there's a film out called The Order, starring Jude Law, and it takes place in Coeur d'Alene. It's set in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in western Washington, Spokane area in the 1980s, and it's interesting talking to an independent journalist who has more background information on this story. There's more to this story than the Hollywood gave it in their Hollywood treatment. But the principle of it was very similar to Gladio, basically using white supremacist or infiltrating the KKK groups, neo-Nazi groups, and then doing bank robberies, basically, almost like gangs, basically, and then using the takings from the bank robberies to build a war chest for a major domestic terror event, or a major armed insurrection type event. And so the implication is, in a lot of these things like Oklahoma City, Elohim City, where Timothy McVeigh and where the kind of incubation of the OKC operation took place, all under federal supervision, including federal psychiatrist Jolyon West, as an example, who's also involved in a bunch of other interesting events, coincidentally. So if you believe in coincidences, so it's interesting how, so when you watch these Hollywood films, Hesher, there's an entertainment value to it. So you're getting the story. The acting is phenomenal. Jude Law is phenomenal in this film. It's probably best film I've ever seen him in. And he's also playing an American character, which is not easy to do for some British actors. And the story's great, but there's a story behind the story, and Hollywood doesn't tend to show it. And at the end, they did a J6 propaganda spot at the very end of the film, which kind of ruined it for me. They put up one of those kind of slates up there right before the credits, and the music gets really solemn at the end, and the January 6th insurrection, da 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 da, and trying to tie that to the neo-Nazis of the 80s and stuff. It's just really weak. But it's typical. Hollywood just can't help themselves. I mean, they couldn't resist. So they said, let's ruin this good film with a little bit of propaganda just before Trump comes in and pardons all of them. Hesher, what about that?
Why would you? I mean, why would you at this point in the timeline? I don't understand why a filmmaker. I mean, I assume it's probably the production team or executive producers that can do that, or would do that. But at this point, like, you're essentially alienating half of your potential audience there. I think even mainstream conservatives at this point all know that J6 was a stitch up, and that so many of these contrived events, these events where people are hoodwinked into some sort of political action, a lot of that I think was practice for J6. J6 was like, because we look at cases like the ones we just mentioned, and it's like, you've got a couple of people, right, getting essentially stitched up, getting entrapped, getting I don't know, maybe entrapped isn't a word that those that do this would like me to use, but we see what you're doing, and it smells like entrapment to most Americans. That's the word that comes to mind for,
It
most
is
logical people.
it effectively it fits the definition of
Yeah,
entrapment, but like a lot of people who work for the FBI or other pundits, oh no, it wasn't. It's technically not entrapment, but it is.
yeah.
You're luring people in, giving them cash to buy illicit material for bomb making material or whatever. You're keeping minutes at the meeting. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's a pretty weak argument to say, because what they would probably say is, no, 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 these are just confidential informants, and uh, they're just sort of nudging these people to hurry up and do what they were going to do anyways. Well, I'm sorry, you look at like Newberg Sting in particular, or the case that we talked about. We may have an article up at 21 on it, but I know Last American Vagabond has an article on, I think it was 2018, a mentally challenged child or, youth. Parents caught an FBI handler trying to radicalize their son. So it's like we have this litany of this scenario happening over and over again, but they all seem to kind of have been uh, like precursors to J6, because J6 was just very similar, but it wasn't aimed at just a couple of people that, are vulnerable mentally, emotionally, whatever. It was aimed at the entirety of conservatives who were willing to activate, who were willing to go out and essentially do activism, um, and they stitched up over 1,000 people in that event. So anyway, back to it. I think that for a film like that to and I've seen so many shows on the streaming services like this too, even in comedy shows, stand-up comedy shows, where it's like you see it's a great performance, and then all of a sudden they just tank it by talking about J6 as though it was an actual insurrection. I'm sorry, how many people were there? How many people were there armed? Because usually an insurrection is an armed thing. I've never seen an insurrection where the authorities open the front door and where the insurrectionists walk in real slowly and take pictures of stuff and look around and don't disturb the velvet ropes and all that. It's just amazing that people still think that they can push that line, that mainstream media line. Hollywood would do itself a favor to just get away from that at this point, because you are alienating half your audience, at least, probably more than half now.
Yeah, I know. It's cell phones. Apparently, you can do an insurrection with cell phones. I think there's one guy that had tie wraps on him, He was, Fed hunting. I mean, there's one guy who was kind of a funny character, and then there was obviously Jacob Chansley, the infamous Buffalo Man, and that was the media's favorite character for J6, and he was literally there as a performative, artist, basically, playing the role of Buffalo Man, patriotic Buffalo Man. Jacob Chansley. So, I mean, he wasn't armed or dangerous or anything like that. But yeah, and so now looking back at it, and the FBI, not the FBI, but Secret Service or somebody, forgot the gentleman shot and killed an unarmed protester named Ashley Babbitt. And of course, nobody wants to talk about that. So yeah, that was the deadly casualty on the day. And then all the federal informants running around. There's also DHS, probably people working for their Homeland Security, probably people working for contractors who are paid by Homeland Security. There's a couple of individuals that fit that MO. So all in all, you have, maybe quite a few actors, at minimum, many, many dozen federal actors and contractors on site. At maximum, probably more than 100, I would say. Some of them provoking the crowd. And then you have the pipe bombers on J6. I mean, that's like, that could potentially get blown open during the Trump administration. You know what's going to happen? This is how it goes, folks. We're telling you how Washington works. They have all of the goods on the FBI's fake pipe bomber, which they had set up as a type of a story, and it fizzled out. They didn't have a chance to run with that properly, but somebody's head should roll for that, but they won't, because there's horse trading going on. We won't press on that, but you've got to give us this. So this is how Washington works, folks. There is no justice. There's only horse trading that goes on. So the dirt becomes leverage. And that's unfortunately what's going to happen. I mean, I think anybody involved in egging that on the government side should, at least go in front of a hearing, and maybe should be sentenced to do at least the amount of time or penalty that any of the people who just were charged and locked up and given, federal felony cases for basically breaching the Capitol when the police let them in. I mean, if those people have done a year or a year and a half or 6 months or 3 months, I think any Fed who is an informant, or worse, any provocateur from the federal government or the DHS side, should do equal the time of whatever J6 protesters did. Equal.
Yeah, and in particular, their supervisors, not so much, I mean, yes, them, but also the public needs to know what the chain of command was there, which agencies had managers and supervisors that were directing these people. There's the guy that's in Bobby Powell's footage, famously, breaking a window out and then blaming someone else and trying to get people to go through the window. Mm-hmm. There was the guy in the Shema rap with the sunglasses and the baseball hat, who was holding the door open. He looked very familiar from a side profile. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a good chance that's someone with a name some of us might recognize. And none of those people were ever called into trial. None of those people were ever named. None of those people did any time. And most people that deep research this think that those were exactly what you said, provocateurs.
Yeah, and too many of them. So hopefully this doesn't happen again. I mean, the fact that they allowed a protest to happen right at the Capitol at a time when they were doing congressional business inside, to me, is very sus, because there's many times you can't get near the Capitol. There's huge barriers that are normally put up, and that was suspended on the day. So, I mean, yeah, if you think people are stupid enough to believe that wasn't absolutely orchestrated and staged beforehand to get a certain result, and they got the political result they wanted, and they tried to squeeze and use every drop of that for years after, in order to obviously demonize the Trump MAGA movement, kill the Republican Party's chances in the midterms and in 2022, and then ultimately try to knock Trump out of the race for 2024 election. And they nearly did. And they had a bunch of contingency plans for this. Kept using it, kept leveraging this, but also it sends a message out to activists, which is you will be politically persecuted if you're on the wrong side of the aisle, and the government is going to do that, and all the state organs are going to conspire to make that happen. That's a really dark sort of message being sent by the state. That's the kind of authoritarian stuff that we decry when we see it overseas in other countries. It's the type of thing we think Russia and China do to their citizens. But these elaborate entrapment schemes, I don't even think the Russians and the Chinese are so brazen as these deep state jackals in Washington, that to dream up this stuff and then to get the media on board to orchestrate the narrative. And that's one of the things when we're talking about the war on terror 2.0, and obviously we covered this last night. And this is the thing, Hesher. You've got the overlap of you've got mainstream media, you've got now independent mainstream or alternative mainstream, as we like to call it, the YouTube podcast circuit. Then you've got the government, okay? Then you've got law enforcement, counterterrorism. You've got the intelligence community, okay? They all overlap. And so that then you can, let's say an event happens, a New Orleans type event. I say New Orleans type event. Let's say that happens. Then you have to have the media basically lined up to be able to manage the story. Then you have to have the right experts to come on to talk about it. And then you have to have the right witnesses handy. And then you have to have the right journalists to go into the home of the alleged perpetrator 24 hours after the event to do a guided tour of the perpetrator's house. And we've seen this pattern used over and over. Orlando Pulse nightclub, San Bernardino in 2015, and again in New Orleans. And then this other sideshow in Las Vegas with the Cybertruck, and then how that thing was laundered through the celebrity intel bro of Navy SEAL podcast circuit. And it just looks like, and we'll share a clip with you in a moment, Hesher, but if you can control all of these different nodes of an event, the media coverage is very important. The narrative management, very, very important. Then the politicians can go take the podium and confidently reiterate that narrative. It's already been inculcated into the brains of the public by then. And this is how I think the propaganda is much more, Hesher, a lot more sophisticated now. And I think it's actually very effective. It's very effective on a level, I think, even deeper than the mainstream media did. However, there's also a lot more people that are awake to this at the same time. That's why it's getting very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, it absolutely is. You're dealing with this juxtaposition of a large segment of the populace that now has a ever shrinking attention span and IQ because of the media environment, the educational environment, everything. The way culture is right now, the way 21st century culture is, and the way that a lot of people's emotions and context for reality is simply a follow the bouncing ball of today's doom scroll. That has set up an environment where they can come out with these absurd narratives with that sort of fusion between mass media cartels, intelligence agencies, politicians, deep state entities, military industrial complex entities, and they can just weave this absurd narrative that unfolds in a way that those with the attention span of a goldfish can be sucked in. So they're leveraging that. They're leveraging that. But at the same time, to your other point, we've been doing this sort of busting of that system for well over a decade now. Riding on the analysis and success of people that were doing it before us, and learning as we go, to the point now where a lot of the analysis techniques that we've used have become, dare I say, somewhat mainstream. And then there's also this intuitive knowledge that a lot of people have, even if they're not steeped in it like we are, and many of our viewers are. They have an intuitive knowing that something's not right here, and that they're being lied to. So the combination of that group of intuitive folks and deep researchers is sort of putting a thumb on the scale, because for the longest time it was way out of whack. People had a lot more trust in the mass media than they do now, post COVIDocracy.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also, being able to talk to independent researchers and journalists who are really steeped in some of these topics. As we spoke to David J. Riley last night. Who's got a lot of on the ground experience, very much up close experience with a lot of these things, that some of them become national stories. Then there's a lot of these setups that aren't national stories, not really. And if you don't hear the info from some of these researchers and independent journalists, then you won't know about it. But when he was talking about some of these FBI setups and these shady operations up in the Pacific Northwest, and literally alarm bells were going off, because I was like, I kept seeing all the exact same MO, same operation details as some of these other cases. So you can kind of, after a while, if you really know the subject matter well, and you've done good reading on it, you can kind of detect when you're looking at one of these sort of setups, cutout organizations, obvious cutout organizations. I mean, we do a lot of this stuff working internationally, looking at how the CIA have all these sort of media outlets and Bellingcat type operations they've set up, these cutout organizations to provide what looks like open source raw intelligence, and then the media hoover it up. The New York Times, the Guardian will run with it and say independent research outlet Bellingcat has found these evidence of chemical weapons in Syria, or the downing of MH17 was Putin, and they've got intercepted this and hacked that and leaked that, passport images magically appeared on BitTorrent. So, oh my gosh, where did they come from? But these great gamers that work for Bellingcat, they've discovered this stuff because they're so talented. They recruit these gamers, Hesher. They're just really, really talented in finding this stuff. The breadcrumbs weren't dropped for them and told where to go look for them. No. They're just really talented, autistic, Asperger's gamers. They're that good.
Yeah, they take time out of their busy Halo schedule, gaming schedule, to do some geopolitical deep diving. And this is ridiculous. It's more laundering of intel agency propaganda and consolidating resources. We've seen a lot of resource consolidation, and information resources are to be included in that. BlackRock is sucking up all of the homes, and yes, Vanguard and State Street are pushing DEI, and taking all this, trillions of dollars. Yes, all this is happening, but at the same time, that same consolidation is happening in the information sphere, in the social media sphere, in the news sphere. And this is a big part of why they want to see TikTok go away. This is a big part of why AI has been inserted into everything. This is also probably a big part of why Mark Zuckerberg thinks he can rebrand himself and say, "Oh, we're going to get rid of the fact checkers, guys. Sorry about that. Check out my new haircut. I got the Spicoli cut going.
He did, yeah.
Hanging out with Joe Rogan. And
maybe getting
Joe,
high, maybe getting high. I mean, so he totally rebranded Zuckerberg. I mean, it's like he went from Data and Star Trek to Spicoli. Like I was shocked when I saw him. What's going on here? I guess he's going through his wild phase. He's done well. He's made the money, and he's just surfing now. He's not really involved in day-to-day operations. I wasn't involved in that censorship stuff.
they yelled at us. We didn't know what to do. Oh my gosh, Joe, hand me that blunt.
So much pressure that I mean, this guy writes checks out to the Democrats for ungodly sums of money. He basically bought the result for the 2020 election in favor of Biden, like literally his 300, 400 million or whatever he did with his quote targeted poll workers and all in the drop boxes and Zucker boxes and all this stuff. I mean, like he has to kowtow to the federal government to enforce censorship. He did it willingly. He did it with a smile. You can guarantee that was just so disingenuous to watch Zuck go. And I'm telling you, Zuckerberg, you've made so many people's lives miserable over the last 6-8 years through like rolling bans, censorship, and what the worst part about Mark, okay, and Meta is that when you ban people, you're preventing them from having normal communications with their own family members. People like family who DM, who share birthdays, family events. Okay, I was subject to those sort of suspensions and bans and all sorts of stuff. Not able to use DMs or something like that, all because of this incredible spook security state apparatus that you let fester at Meta. And your head of trust and safety is a CIA agent, Aaron Berman. Yeah. Oh, he got promoted, Hesher, to head of global election integrity. And so, hey, he's done such a good job on censorship. So you got a CIA spook literally brief the president, the CIA agent who briefs the president, put him in charge of trust and safety, which is translated censorship, and clamping down on political speech or anything that's inconvenient to the government or its allies overseas. And you put him in charge of global election integrity. So Facebook can put its thumb, Meta can put its thumb on the scales of any election around the world for whichever direction they choose. They have that power, and they will bend to the will of whatever government, U.S. friendly government, is asking them to do whatever. They will do it, and they've shown that. They'll go for, if it's a Marxist government, they will bend in their favor. If it's a fascist, they'll bend in their favor. It's a monarchy, doesn't matter. As long as Facebook and Meta can operate in that market, that's first priority. Second priority is what does Washington want? That's how it works. It's that simple. So
Yeah, and look at what just happened in Romania. It was in Romania, right, where they suspended or they did not certify an election because of supposedly because there was a TikTok campaign that they claim. They can just claim that there's a TikTok campaign that has somehow influenced the election. Where have we seen that one before? Oh yeah, it was the Moldavian 23-year-olds with the little side ads on Facebook, right? They bought some ads and try to say that was, election interference. So, do we really want CIA officers working at Facebook, telling people about what's the integrity of global elections? Like a story like that comes out and it's just like, no, this does look like election interference, but it looks more like, there are international deep state interests behind that, more so than any actual, social media oriented or, grassroots oriented sort of disruption.
no, absolutely. And the Twitter files revealed all. The Twitter files revealed all. And what I try to explain to people, Hesher, is that just because you saw what's in the Twitter files, me, myself, finding myself in the Twitter files as well, but just because we could see all of that, Global Engagement Center, all of that, we knew all that was going on, even some of those groups that were exposed I was already on their sort of lists beforehand, which we found out via, the University of Washington and whatnot. But that's just what we've seen. There's no Facebook files. There's no YouTube files. Independent journalists haven't been able to rifle through the Google files. What other lists? Deplatforming, deranking. We got deranked in April of 20. I think it was Operation Owl or one of those Google ops. It was April 2017, after Trump got elected, and hundreds of websites basically got downgraded. So almost nothing on organic searches, and of course the advertising revenue collapsed with all of these websites. So it was a very successful political targeting operation done by Silicon Valley. And so we won't know how many spooks are in key positions at Google and YouTube, also at Meta. But what we did find out, the little we did find out, was shocking. It was really something else. And it just shows you how much they were trying to control the narrative. They ruined a lot of independent, bona fide, legit independent journalists and media outlets. They made it impossible for them to have reach, impossible for them to monetize. Why? To preserve a political order and to protect the deep state.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't even post a link to alternate current radio on Facebook. Ruckus sent me a screenshot yesterday. He was, putting a post up in our Facebook group to, point to a new show on alternate current radio. And we get a message saying that our website doesn't exist. So how does that work? Zuckerberg says he's going to stop the censoring over, I don't even know. I was never told what I said wrong on there to be shadow banned, to be demonetized, to be deplatformed, to be all these things. And it's still that way. It's still that way. He's literally sitting there with Joe Rogan with a blunt, probably in the room. I didn't actually watch the whole thing. Couldn't sit through it. It makes my stomach turn. While I can't post a link to my website. Like, what the hell is that? And, Patrick, back in 2023, I believe, we had a guest here on Sunday Wire with us. Maybe you can put this on the screen. It's down there in the backstage. He goes by Name Redacted. And look at this. Look, here he is on Twitter. It's pinned at the top of his page. Recommend you follow Name Redacted if you want to go look at the receipts for this. He says, why has Meta hired more than 160 individuals from the U.S. intelligence community since 2018? Is the Global Engagement Center directly providing funding to Meta? Is this a modern day version of Operation Mockingbird? And then he goes through the numbers there. And look, he's got these people's LinkedIn accounts. He's got these things. So 14 CIA, 26 FBI, 16 NSA, 29 DHS, State Department, 32 employees, and DOD, 49 employees. So, and this is an older post. This is back in the transitional phase, I believe, between Twitter 1.0 and X, Twitter 2.0. And he goes on, after learning that Twitter employs at least 15 former FBI agents, I searched Facebook. What I found is alarming. Facebook currently employs at least 115 people in high-ranking positions. And that's updated, so it's even more than that. And then he talks about how the GEC was established in the 2017 NDAA. That is the place where a lot of money gets laundered and programs get started that no Americans voted for and no Americans would want if they knew what their goals were. So you can find all this on his X account, and you can find him speaking with us about this in the archives back in 2023.
Yeah, no, great research, great resource, and thank you for bringing that up, Hesher. I really appreciate that because that's the real meat. And it's like the Matt Taibbi, Paul Thacker, and all these, Michael Schellenberger, and others. They did the work of going through there, and then other Twitter accounts, other users and researchers did a refinement of some of that information. Again, focusing on some of these important areas, and Name Redacted did a good job basically highlighting some of that stuff. I mean, it's pretty shocking. I remember watching the Zoom calls that they made public, and they even uploaded onto Vimeo and YouTube of them having meetings talking about how they were, doing all of plotting and planning all this stuff between all of these people from these different companies and the spooks that were working for them. These are people who you go look at their LinkedIn profiles, Hesher, and literally jumping from the NSA and the DHS and the CIA straight into Meta. Like, how did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
did they get a tip off of the job board looking for trust and safety experts, censorship experts, looking for someone qualified, blah, 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 public administrative experience recommended, da, 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 da. No, this was basically an outsourcing of the intelligence services into Silicon Valley, a direct pipeline. That's what it was. And so while they're working, maybe they're taking a paycheck from a Silicon Valley company, one of these big tech firms. They're really working on behalf of, and really probably under the direction of, at some level anyway. In the case of Twitter, we found out that it was literally had the FBI. I think what was his name? Was it Steve Baker, the FBI lawyer at Twitter, like the guy. Yeah, I mean, one of the main Democrat sort of it was Obama administration guys or whatever, FBI guy, basically embedded in with these people have access to your DMs. They're monitoring communications, probably tracking activists, journalists. Who knows what they were up to? We heard that they had access to, some of these people admitted they had access to DMs, and then the FBI putting pressure to take down posts, to take down accounts. Elvis Chan, all of that evidence that was came out in the Twitter files as well. That's just what we saw, folks. That's not the totality of what's there. The totality of what's there is if you look in the basement at YouTube, look in the basement at Meta, and see what games and chicanery has been going on with Instagram and Facebook, and the damage these people have done. And for Mark Zuckerberg to do this mea culpa tour, trying to rebrand himself. I mean, it's smart of him to do it. Try to at least endear himself to some section of the population, rather than the rest of them that would basically just cut and run, or complete denial, and maybe probably scrubbing their resumes as we speak. At least Zuckerberg, I guess took one for the team, and came out and did what he did. But I'm not sold at all with the Spicoli haircut. Hesher has not fooled me one bit with regards to Zuck. I'll bring this up here. I'm gonna look at this character, Mr. Jack Dorsey, the man himself, the man of the hour, Big Jack. We'll see, here he is. I think we've got him on screen. Yeah, there he is. So yeah, this during COVID did a really good job of nuking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of accounts, plus tons of conservative accounts in that massive purge before the 2018 midterms. You remember that?
Oh yeah. We had already been purged pretty heavily at that point, but yeah, then it became even bigger, and we were pointing out on the boiler room before last, Meta's involvement with NATO's Atlantic Council and their digital forensics lab, which is directly connected to probably a lot of those government hires within Meta. Well, Meta is, as Odd Man Out pointed out in the tweet thread on this, our buddy Odd Man Out, you can listen to his podcast at Alternate Current Radio. He says Meta is a top funder of NATO's Atlantic Council and a gold member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Therefore, Zuck is part of the military-industrial complex. You know what I mean? It's a very simple set of logic. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, and then to have him, show up on Joe Rogan and claim, oh, I was bullied by the Biden You know what I mean? It's just like, who's buying this?
But who is bullying him? Jen Psaki?
Yeah.
Jen Psaki bullying you, Mark?
Or is it all these spooks that you've hired? Is the bullying coming from within? Is it really bullying? If you were a private company CEO and all of a sudden you discovered, oh wait, I've got 100 and some odd security state people working for me. Oh my gosh, how'd this happen? I'm so sorry, everybody. Yeah, right. Yeah, right, dude.
So this is one of those glory pieces run by, I think it was Vanity Fair during COVID. Just praising Jack Dorsey for all the censorship he was doing during COVID. And this guy destroyed Twitter, destroyed faith in big tech, almost single-handedly. Basically, opened the back door in San Francisco and said to every three-letter agency, "Come on in." He was like a Portuguese matador. In a white coat, just basically, yeah, come on in, straight in the back, guys. Take over whatever floor you want to take over. It's all yours. Twitter's yours. Shut everybody down. We don't care. I don't care. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. I'm off to a steamboat for skiing this winter. So just see you guys later. Have fun. Here's the keys to the head office in San Francisco. Thanks, Jack. And where's Jack Dorsey now? He's hiding, basically. You hardly see the guy. Blue Sky is an abject failure. So he helped build Twitter. He didn't invent Twitter, much like Elon. He's not the inventor. He's just the guy that became the face of the organization.
Same with Zuck. He didn't invent Facebook. He didn't even steal it from the Winklevoss twins. It was most likely a CIA project called LifeLog.
Well, there you are. Yeah, that's another interesting conversation. So anyway, that's Jack. We won't beat on him anymore, but very dubious character. What we're going to do is I want to share a clip with you as well. And what we'll do on that, let me share this clip with you. And this is, we'll go to look at what Max Blumenthal said about this first. And let's see what Max said here. We'll bring this up on screen. So here, I don't know if you have a good view of this, everybody, but so Max Gray Zone, he's saying former CIA targeter. He's talking about Sarah Adams. There she is, Sarah TPA, Sarah, and she's doing the rounds. She's of the Sean Ryan show, which first obtained the Cybertruck bomber manifesto. Has to be one of the biggest fraudsters in the counterterrorism industry, says Max, which is filled with them. She's selling low IQ MAGA types on the inevitability of a 9/11 style attack, but it's more like a Hamas attack. They can't make up their mind. Hamas is supposedly on the move, even though they're under rubble in Gaza. But anyway, don't let the facts or reality get in the way of a good narrative. So this Hamas attack or 9/11 style attack inside America, as Max saying here, Adams' sources are unnamed, referred to simply as, quote, we, because they don't exist, says Blumenthal. If she had any classified info revealing on a podcast, of course, would violate top secret security clearance, which she supposedly possesses. All good points here. And naturally, she prescribes more mass surveillance and, of course, more invasive things at airport security as the only logical response to the imminent 9/11 Hamas October 7th suicide bomber mega attacks on the homeland. So she's talking about this interview here, and this is incredible. Now, I'm going to play that interview in a moment, and let me bring up some of the other bits and pieces regarding that. But I'm going to bring up the actual interview, Hesher, and we're going to listen to this clip, and it's absolute classic, one of the best. I think you might have even shared some of this during the space the other night here. So I'm going to bring on, this is the one I reposted here. Let's bring this up. And so there it is. So my headline is Miss South Carolina meets Homeland, Claire Danes. That's what it kind of felt like. So yeah, Miss South Carolina, we'll tell you what that energy is all about in a moment. But let me bring that up here and just see. We're going to have a listen to this. Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best kind of entertainment you could possibly get with the thrills and everything else. Have a listen.
What do you anticipate these attacks looking like? Are we going to see these quote unquote one-offs like
Can you hear that okay, Hesher?
Yeah, we got it.
You got that? Okay, we'll go back.
What do you anticipate these attacks looking like? Are we going to see these quote unquote one-offs like in New Orleans, just randomly and with more frequency? Do they have an October 7th style assault planned? What are you expecting?
So we have both. So we're first going to see the one-offs, and then we're probably going to see at least one U.S. embassy overseas targeted. And then there is a large 9/11 style attack, but it's more like the Hamas attacks or like the Mumbai plot, from 15 years ago. And how the terrorists were trained, at least, is they went through urban warfare training and they went through suicide bomber training. We believe about 10% of the attackers will be suicide.
Hold on, time out. Little yellow card. So they've gone through urban warfare, at least one U.S. embassy. It sounds like they know about all their training. They know what all their targets are. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a simple guy. Obviously, Hesher, I don't have a PhD in counterterrorism. But does this mean the CIA has been doing the urban warfare training? And does CIA know what the targets of the operations are? Because she's got this granular detail, Hesher, of these terrorist operations that are inevitably coming in 2025. Too much detail. It even knows how many cities they're going to attack. So how come they can't stop them then?
Yeah, they seem to have. She seems to claim to have all of the W4, right? The who, what, the when, where. And of course, we all know the why. They hate us because of our freedom. If that still sticks in anybody's head.
No, there's an extra bit of narrative here. No, apparently they're upset about the death of Osama bin Laden.
Oh yeah, right.
So that's the motive. They want to avenge bin Laden after all these years. Suddenly, it's the bee in the bonnet of Al Qaeda. Oh my God, these Americans, they've killed bin Laden. We haven't done anything about this. Let's do something. Let's do something in 2025.
Yeah.
Let's do some Mumbai.
Hold on. Yeah, we'll just hold out for a decade or more. Well, while all this stuff, this terrible things happen to Arab people all over the Middle East. Al Qaeda does and ISIS do nothing to help any of them. They do nothing against Israel. They do only things that hurt people in the places that they live. They're disrupting. They're causing violence. They're doing ethnic cleansing. They're attacking Christians and Alawites. They're hanging people. They're stealing Rolexes. They're setting up fake media via things like the White Helmets with Western funding, NATO advanced knowledge and Western funding. Our media jumping in on that to support those narratives. So yeah, it's totally normal that these groups would wait all this time, and it's totally normal for Americans to think that the rest of the Muslim and Arab world is so upset about a CIA asset named Osama bin Laden, who was not even in Afghanistan when they killed him. Like everybody's on board with that. Are you kidding us, Sarah Adams? Do you really think people are going to buy this? Well, apparently some do, but more and more people are not buying it, and we're going to keep talking about this because we see what you're laying the groundwork for here, and what you're laying the groundwork for apparently is a global war on terror 2.0 that has come home to roost here in the United States. You're pushing, and at the same time, you're pushing the narrative that domestic right-wing extremism at home is of equal odious intent, and that's why you saw a two-sided psyop coin at the first of the year, where you've got a Green Beret, who's probably someone, if the story's above board, which is questionable, but if it is, probably someone who's suffering from CTE, PTSD, traumatic breaks and took his own life. All right. But instead you want to say that it's, a right-wing radical, someone who's, been radicalized by narratives on the internet, worried about Chinese drones and aliens and, anti-gravitic technology and all this stuff. And then you've got the radicalized by ISIS guy on the other side of the coin. So it's like, those are the two groups that you're trying to demonize, Sarah. And you should be ashamed that one of those groups is our own veterans here in this country, many of whom are suffering from a 20-year-long war, the effects of a 20-year-long war that should have never been.
And of course, the U.S. intelligence service had nothing to do with any of this. They don't have any contacts in any of these radical Islamist terrorist organizations. They have no contact at all with Al Qaeda, not involved with HTS in Idlib, none of that. Nope. And of course, any of the various and sundry affiliates in and out of Syria through Turkey and Jordan. Oh, the training base in Al Tanf. That's interesting. Let's not talk about that now. Camp Bucha, we talked about some of the famous alumni there. So, of course, our Western intelligence agencies aren't involved in any of this stuff. And Israeli intelligence is even more innocent. They're whiter than white. They're not involved with any of this. Let's listen to the rest of this. Highly entertaining.
Suicide bombers, but we also believe the suicide bombings aren't just going to occur on land. They're also going to occur in the air, on airplanes.
Gosh, that is so freaky. That is so freaky. What do you anticipate?
So suicide bombs on planes. That's interesting. A new threat, creative. You can see the host there, Liz Wheeler. I think she was shocked and appalled at the possibility there. I was just getting vibes. I mean, we talk some strange vibes off that one. So Hesher, I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're really pushing this hard. They're paving the way, as you said, to create a war on terror type narrative, so that when these things start unfolding, the public has already been primed. The asphalt, the narrative asphalt already been laid, and all you have to do is just drive your propaganda truck right down that road, and everybody will just fall in line, and all the spooks and Intel Bro podcasts will say, oh, of course this is totally plausible. We had Sarah Adams talking about it 3 times on our podcast. Sean Ryan could just kick back and be cool about it. Say, yeah, man, we covered this on our broadcast. We warned you about this. We told you to shut that border. It's exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, we want to buy my new phone here. So it's just ridiculous. I mean, but this is where it is. This is the new mainstream media.
No, it's really unfortunate. Sean Ryan, I don't know if you know what you're doing or not, but the effect of this is you're nerfing our veterans. If something bad happens in this country, we need our veterans on board. And if something bad happens in this country and it's due to a corrupted intelligence set of services and corrupt government narratives, you're taking all of those veterans that watch your show and respect you and look up to you and think that, your guests are always credible, and you're pointing them in the wrong direction. You're gaslighting them to go back to GWAT 1.0, Global War on Terror 1.0 mindsets of the Muslims are the bad guys. Well, maybe they're not. Everything we're laying out here indicates that there is a corruption in our government, in our DOD, in our intelligence services that are willing to lie to the American people, to lie to the world, to make fake terror to support war. Okay. And if this is the predictive programming that says, hey, it's coming home to roost, you're gaslighting your team members, you're gaslighting American civilians that look up to you, and you're participating either wittingly or unwittingly in a massive psyop here that could end up being very detrimental to all of us and detrimental to that oath that you took as a military member.
All of them, you take an oath, you work for any of these government agencies or law enforcement, defend the U.S. Constitution, all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, if you're violating the U.S. Constitution or impeding the rights or directly violating the rights of American citizens, then you're kind of an enemy of the Constitution, foreign or domestic. And so many cases of this. I mean, January 6th is a perfect example. And then, of course, we're talking about government, employees or spooks, ex-spooks working for private companies, supposedly as private employees of, Meta or Twitter Inc. or Alphabet, and basically colluding with the federal government to deny the First Amendment rights of millions of Americans. And not only that, denying that access to that information to the entire populace and globally. And you're censoring other countries as well, denying them their rights in their local countries. I mean, wow, it's quite an operation. And if you're not calling it out, especially if you're in the system, you're from the system, you're in the system, or you're from the system, you're not calling that out, you're doing a huge disservice to the principles that you claim to uphold, that we all, that those of you swear an oath to defend and protect. I guess it doesn't matter when as soon as you're working for a private firm, I guess all that's suspended, isn't it? Then you're clear. You're clear. You can do whatever you want. I'm here with Hesher, Brian McLean, host of the Boiler Room on ACR. Hesher, we're going to take a break in just a moment here. Just give a shout out to your program, Hesher, where people can find the Boiler Room on ACR.
Alternate Current Radio is our website. Please visit it. Please share it around. You'll find myself and my colleagues live in the Boiler Room Thursday nights. The archives are up there at alternatecurrentradio.com. We usually go live between 9 and 10 Eastern Time, PM. So join us for the live show. And that's where you'll find me in the Boiler Room, alternatecurrentradio.com, here on Sunday Wire. We've got a bunch of great shows over there at ACR, to include this one, the Daily Ruckus, the Odd Man Out podcast, Mystical American Patriot Society, and more. So that's where you can find me. And Patrick, I see people asking about Basil in the chat, and I think Basil might be joining us after the break here. So looking forward to that.
We do have Basil, and we're also going to talk about Elon Musk and some of his exploits and his involvement in the military-industrial complex. Very interesting. We'll do that after the break as well. I'm here with Hesher. Of course, we'll be joined by Basil Valentine after the break. At the moment, we're going to take a short break here for the Alternate Current Radio Network, and we'll say enjoy the music of some of our favorite artists during this break, namely Joseph Arthur. We'll be featuring Joseph Arthur, Red Rumble, and Peter Conway, three great independent bands and artists. We'll be back after these short musical interludes. I'll call them pieces of art. Absolutely brilliant. We'll see you in a moment.
Brothers and sisters, when being divided, don't believe what they say. Hold on to your soul. Everyone divided in an echo chamber hole, saying that the enemy doesn't have a soul. Listening to media, tell them what to think. this. I think that, but who cares anyway? Most becoming puppets being told the words to say. In the days of outrage, void of charity, held hostage by opinion in a cage they never see. The ego deals in conflict, love is hardly free. Focus on the difference between both you and me. Divide 'em with opinion, judge it ruthlessly. Make sure you get them angry at what the others see. Beyond all these opinions, you and I are one, but media won't tell you that they'd rather see you run. Lead with hate and anger and cacophonies of rage, to judge each other evil, conflicts re-engage. Keep the zombies clicking as the engine revs and screams. The engine of division is the devil's best machine. But imagine for a second being led a different way. A message of forgiveness and love brought every day. Divide 'em with opinion, judge it ruthlessly. Make sure you get them angry at what the others see. Divide and conquer, conquer and divide. When they lead with hatred, they don't want you to survive. Divide and conquer, conquer and divide. When they lead with hatred, they don't want you to survive. They don't want you to survive. They don't want you to survive. They don't want you to
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network. We're also at 21stcenturywire.com. That's the mothership. Hello to everybody in the 21 Wire chat room. Great to see you guys. Thanks for coming along. Obviously, no live audio stream with Spreaker. They've discontinued that great feature. So we'll probably be leaving Spreaker after all these years, but we'll find a replacement pretty soon. But at the moment, you can watch the live video streams, which we'll embed on our show page. Plus, we've got YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, BitChute, X as well. A lot of people watching on X right now. Hello, we've got probably about 3,000 viewers on X. Great to see you guys there. Also sharing some links and things like that during the show. If you check the comments and check our live feed, we'll be sharing some more information about the topic for today. The topic today is the Faux War on Terror 2.0. That's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. We're warning you about this. We'll be talking about Elon Musk's role in the military-industrial complex and the flip-flopping that he does when he has his sort of, intellectual platitudes about war and peace. A little bit inconsistent. Some would say hypocritical. We'll talk about some of that. And Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, are they going to be basically forced into a situation? And it looks like it's already started. We'll share some of that information with you. The deep state is going to go full on against the Trump administration. They've already begun. We'll show you receipts for that. They're trying to maneuver and push the Trump administration into a corner so they can't negotiate in any meaningful way in Ukraine. They're going to try every possible way to do this. So all these people in the intelligence community pushing all of this war propaganda, fear-mongering about terrorist attacks and all of this stuff, be rest assured, all these people are working against the interests of the American people. They're not your friends. They're working in their own interests and in the interests of the transnational elite. That's what the deep state represents. These people don't believe in borders. They've all got their role to play, and they're paid very handsomely for it. Let me bring back onto the stage Brian McLean, aka Hesher. Great track by Joseph Arthur, The Devil's Best Machine. Divide and Conquer, Conquer and Divide. Amazing lyrics. That's like a genius piece of music by Joseph Arthur. When I first heard it, I didn't know what to make of it. It was like, but everything Joseph does, he's got the talent. His songs literally grow on you after you've listened to them like more than once. They start to grow on you. Then the lyrics start getting in your head. He's an absolute genius, and we're privileged to be able to, play his work on the live stream. Amazing artist.
Yeah, absolutely. All the artists that we feature here are people that we know, friends of ours, and it's hard to enjoy music when live streaming because of all the copyright stuff on the platforms. So just a really big shout out to Joseph, to Walk On Army, to Red Rumble, to Peter Conway, Permanent Wave, and Utility. These are all friends of ours. They're all people that watch and listen to the show and understand where we're at in the timeline. A lot of shout outs in the X and YouTube and Rumble chats about that song. Summer says this song has a 90s energy and a kind of Faith No More aura, but all in line with the new times. I thought that was a great assessment. I kind of felt the same way. I love that. I don't know how he did it, but there's sort of like a bullhorn effect on his vocals. It's really cool, and does kind of have echoes of Mike Patton's stylings, but just in a really powerful message and a great tune, great song. Just absolutely love it. Same to all our other artists that we support. And there's links to all those artists on our show pages. So please support them. You can go, drop them a tip on Bandcamp or pick up their albums, digital or physical. There's a lot of ways you can support these people. So we really appreciate it. We're one of the few shows that features music on these streams because we can, and because we have great friends, colleagues, audience, and artists in our midst.
Yeah, no, amazing. And we'll be doing some more videos after at the end of the show as well. And also I want to just show people to do pay attention to this, which is happening right now. It's our winter fundraising drive at 21stcenturywire.com. This is the time of year where we try to raise money to fund the operation for the coming 12 months. It's a very important time of year. Some of you have already chipped in, and normally we read the names off every week. We just haven't been able to get that together, but we're working on that, and we'll do a roll call, at least the first names of donors, obviously, keeping confidential for a lot of people, but a lot of support so far. We're going to update that needle. It's gone a little bit higher this week. Obviously, we set a pretty ambitious goal. I'm not sure if we'll make it. We hope we will by the end of the month or slightly thereafter. We've had a few generous people come in to help us, and I hope we appreciate the fact that we have done quite a lot to improve the operation, and a lot more stuff needs to be done and will be done in the coming months. So this is how we stay not just afloat, but thriving, not just surviving, but thriving and doing great independent journalist work and research. We've got some great people on our team. And so we really appreciate your support. If you like what we do and you want to see us do more of it, help us during this winter fundraising drive any way you can. The best, obviously, is subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. That's our members site. That's a rolling monthly donation of around $5 per month. So not expensive, but it goes a long way, and we really appreciate it if you do. So do consider joining us there.
I lost you there, Patrick. You still with us? All right. I don't know what happened there. I can hear myself feeding back on my stream I've got playing in the other room, and Patrick seems to have, I don't know what happened there. But I do see the winter fundraising drive page up there. Hopefully Patrick will get back with us in a moment here. Yeah, big shout outs to everybody in the chats. Really appreciate it. I'm able to see sort of a combined chat roll over here in our main app. So great to see everybody on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, and all that good stuff. I guess oh, you're back. Okay, Patrick, you with us?
Yeah, I got lost in cyberspace for a minute there. Thanks for let me welcome onto the stage Basil Valentine, our roving correspondent for culture and sport.
That old title.
Yeah, or not political editor at 21 Wire, but definitely the roving correspondent for culture and sport. Basil, I can see you're on the Salisbury Plains there, looking beautiful as ever. The jewel of Albion. How are you doing?
Could I just give a shout out to another artist who's been popular this week on X, Aya May. I don't know if you've come across her, an Australian nurse, also an artist, IYAHMAY, and she's got a song out called Carmageddon.
Okay, yeah, I've
which
seen that.
is a similar sort of take on current events. And well, she's better looking than Joseph, if I'm allowed to say that these days.
Well, some ladies would disagree with you, but
That's right.
But yeah, she's really kind of gone viral with that whole thing. I
Yeah,
think she
that's
said
right.
her management company dropped her, record label dropped.
She refused to change the lyrics to her song. So the management company dropped her and she's put it out anyway, and she's gone viral. So fair play to IMA. But I just want to quickly pick up as well on the main narrative you were discussing before the break, and that is it has long since been Netanyahu's objective, going right the way back to the 1980s, to conflate the Palestinian struggle for liberation with random acts of Islamic terrorism, which may or may not be fostered or engendered entirely by the CIA, so that in the minds of low IQ MAGA supporters, as Max Blumenthal described them this week, the war on Hamas is indeed, if we don't fight them here, you'll have to fight them in America. There is no difference between Hamas, ISIS, or any other swarthy colored turbaned terrorist. They're all as bad as each other. They all come under the same umbrella, and that's why we have to be allowed to commit genocide. It's as simple as that. It's all to shore up consent for genocide. That's the narrative that they want to amplify back in the United States, because obviously it's starting to wear thin.
I think remember last night on our space, Hesher, one of our speakers, Bint Talab, was saying, what's no one ever questions what is the motive of these crazy, unlikely, kind of non-productive attacks. There's no benefit to Al-Qaeda. Sometimes they're not even Al-Qaeda members. In the case of New Orleans, he wasn't a member of ISIS. He wasn't Al-Qaeda. He had someone put an upside down ISIS flag on the back of his truck. Maybe he himself didn't even rig it up. No benefit for him, nothing good for ISIS, nothing good for Al Qaeda. So like, why do these events happen? Like, who benefits from them? Nobody seems to benefit from them. The security state benefits from them. The mainstream media benefits with the wall-to-wall coverage for 24 hours. The advertising sales are usually good during those peak viewing times for CNN and the dying mainstream legacy media. They benefit. The politicians benefit because they get to grandstand and demand more funding for their pet projects and their,
and warrantless wiretapping. Interestingly, Tulsi's caving on that. I don't know if you saw that.
What's the latest on that? I saw something about Tulsi going full neocon. What was that all about?
Well, she's basically been told that she's got to row back entirely from her previously sort of libertarian positions on wiretapping and Patriot Act and everything in between. And yes, go full neocon, go along with, the Washington consensus, such as it is, So unsurprisingly, it looks like she is caving in. I saw her coming out of one Democratic senator's office in the week, all smiles. She's been doing the rounds, the glad handing, etc., to get the nomination through. And I think probably she stands a favourite's chance.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. A lot of people are apologizing on her behalf. Libertarian Party was saying, "Oh, be patient with Tulsi. Be patient. She's working it out.
More 5D chess.
She's working it. Trust the plan. She'll eventually get it." Look, the problem is, do these people have any principles? That's the question that's sort of emerging. Like, did they shape shift from party to party, whether it's Tulsi or Elon Musk or jumping from Democrat to Republican? Bobby Kennedy is another one. So what are their ideological principles, or do they have any, or is it just about basically hitching a ride on the gravy train of in this case it's the Trump train or Trump Airlines, where are the principles? So Tulsi's basically position, she conforms to power, doesn't she?
Well, it's certainly starting to look like that. Yes, this paragon of virtue. We all thought that she was the most principled actor on the sort of mainstream US political stage. But first of all, she came out as an ardent Zionist and pro-genocide, but was still sort of clinging to being something of a peacenik, certainly where Ukraine was concerned, and not going along with the whole Washington surveillance, warrantless wiretapping being one of the crucial things. And now she's abandoning all those positions as well.
Hesher, what do you think about Tulsi, who was formerly the titular leader of the U.S. anti-war movement, all of a sudden basically becoming something totally different, not to mention all in for Israel after October 7th? That was quite a shock.
I think she's a great example of political machinations, of public relations. Matt in the X chat says, couldn't she just be saying what she needs to say to get in? And I said, yeah, 100%. But that unfortunately leads to doing what she needs to do to stay in. So saying, you've changed your mind about these things, or you have, a new vision of this and that, that's one thing. But, using your PR team to completely rebrand yourself and sort of dip your toes into libertarianism before going full neocon. I mean, we've seen this script over and over again with people rebranding themselves to get into politics. They'll switch parties. They'll take money from AIPAC or whoever else, their donors are. And of course, work the art of the deal. You got to work the art of the deal if you want to be part of the Trump, cabinet, whatever. So a lot of the things that she used to say were to just forget that she used to say, and some of the things that she used to say that she's, said, I've changed my mind on this. We have to allow for people to grow and evolve and change their minds. But these sort of changes don't jive, because what she used to say you could sort of base in some sort of human ethic, and now it's just pure power politics. So I'm very I'm over Tulsi. I'm very over Tulsi at this point, and I think libertarians need to really take a look at their political ideology and ask themselves, is this little utopia that we talk about simply a fertile ground, like a purgatory for power politicians that want to switch from one team to the other? The whole walk away thing was, very organic for a lot of people, normal voters in the United States, but the walk away thing for politicians who are now going to continue into this next administration is questionable at best.
Basil, you want to comment on that?
Well, every cycle, it seems, people lose faith in one or both of the main parties. But, power is so institutionalized in them that there's no alternative. So, until, absent some political earthquake that's going to allow a third force to emerge, or for that matter, the wholesale takeover of not just one, but both the so-called mainstream parties by, what should I call them? Genuine patriots, honest to God people, ordinary people, people who are not bought and paid for either by AIPAC or the Washington deep state or some combination thereof. It isn't going to change. That's the problem. The people have nowhere to go, even though you have this thin oligarchical crust on top of the body politic that neither serves nor represents the American people, or for that matter in Britain, the British people. Nevertheless, it is able, through the power of money and propaganda, to maintain its stranglehold on the levers of power.
When you said political earthquake, Basil, I had another vision in my head. I had this vision in my head of the earth opening up under Washington, D.C., and then everything falling in there, like one of those.
That might be the only answer.
Hollywood apocalyptic films.
I mean, from the chat on X, of course, you would think that vast swathes of the American public were completely disgruntled and fed up with their own political organization, ever the more so after the fires in Los Angeles, which have exposed even more shortcomings in the way American society is organized. It struck me that that all got so bad because of a perfect storm of, on the one hand, neoliberalism, which meant that the Resnicks owned 60% of the water upstate. And, as over the last 40 years, anything to do with public service, but public utilities or the common good is socialist, and nobody wants to pay a cent more than they absolutely have to. So on the one hand, you've had sort of 40 years of unshackled capitalism applied to things that should not be in the marketplace, like water. And then on top of that, you've got the wokery of the democratic appointments, so that managing this vulture capitalist shit show, you've got the most incompetent people who've only been hired because of their gender or their race or their orientation or something. So you end up with a perfect storm of catastrophic failure.
I'm gonna say we didn't want to get into the LA fire, but seeing as you brought it up, Basil, I will say that there's a Russian angle to it, believe it or not, but it's not the Russian angle that you think. Anyway, while everyone's blaming DEI and woke and everything like this, and Hesher's got the appropriate background, we'll just showcase that. Right. Well done. It's pretty. It's a pretty gruesome sight, but we'll talk about some of the dynamics of that. But there's a Russian angle to this, believe it or not, guys. So check this out. So little did we know, there's a Russian angle here. The Los Angeles fires from the new rules. It's Dmitry Sim's son in Moscow. The LA fires have resulted in massive devastation, but it could have all been avoided, ladies and gentlemen. Could have been avoided if sanctions weren't taking place. So an absolute disaster. Did you know that Russia spent years trying to help California improve its firefighting capacity, only to be rebuffed? And what are we talking about? Check this out. It's about the BE-200, the Russian amphibious jet that's used for firefighting. It sucks up the water 12,000 liters ago. Basically drops in, picks up the payload, takes off again, and goes and drops it on the fire. And it can do unlimited amount of these sorties in an afternoon, an unlimited amount. Unbelievable tech. California, it turns out, had ordered a whole bunch of these. Israel's used them, Spain, France, Turkey, everybody's buying these. California had an order. They were going to acquire a whole fleet of them. But guess what happened? Russian sanctions. They had to cancel it. So California could not fulfill the order. There's the requisition. It was done. So this happened years ago. And this finally in 2018, the California-based company, Seaplane Global Air Services, announced they had signed a contract for 10 of these. 10 of these. And a bunch of those would be assigned to Southern California. So this was step one, but unfortunately didn't happen because of Putin. Putin bad. Hesher, Putin bad. So no Russian seaplanes. And so I guess they're just short of, there's a whole bunch of other conspiracies there. I don't want to get too deep in the woods of this, but as a former resident of California, Hesher, you and I know that forest fires are a daily part of life in California, not because of climate change, newsflash, but a whole host of other things that start fires. And then the inability to put them out, that's another phenomenon that we've seen in LA with like empty reservoirs. That's not unusual either. Empty reservoirs, I grew up with those, especially in the 90s. We started seeing water issues in California. You know all about it, especially because you're in Northern California, and Southern California wanted to steal all our water in Northern California to keep the lawns green down in Sherman Oaks. But that pipeline got kiboshed. Do you remember that one in 1991?
Yeah. It's our friend and colleague and guest F. William Engdahl did a great write-up on water policy in California, and I highly encourage everybody to go read that and check it out. It's a great expose. It explains a lot. It talks about funding. It talks about policy. It talks about the just the fascistic environmental aspect of it. So it's really good, and I'll see if I can bring it up. Maybe you can put it on the screen in a minute here. But yeah, it's an absolute mess. And the sad thing is, like many other psyops that we're subject to these days, the alternative set of blame, right? So like there's like two mainstream sets of blame here. On the left side of the power politic, identity politics, you've got, well, this is climate change. This was going to happen because people bad, right? And on the right, you've got, it's DEI and it's liberalism. But in actuality, if you peel it back and you track water management, forest management, environmentalism, environmental policy in California, and then you look at some of the leadership that's been put in place, Karen Bass, I remember when she was elected, and I remember that Joe Biden himself and Kamala Harris as a team flew from DC to LA to stump for Karen Bass, who is a terrible, and they did this for multiple people that are now the scapegoat of terrible liberal policy, supposedly leading to giant catastrophes, are perfect scapegoats, because before they were even elected, they had federal indictments, federal investigations. They had things that people could leverage them for. They were obsessed with leftist identity politics and DEI, and they made those policies. And it's my supposition that this was done on purpose,
Yep.
so that when all these things started to fail, they did the same thing with Philip Washington. They tried to put him, Biden tried to put him in as the FAA head. Wouldn't Philip Washington, big shout out to CC Woods and some of her colleagues for having exposed that, getting that information to Ted Cruz, actually, who was instrumental in blocking that appointment. Just imagine if Phil Washington was in charge of the FAA when some of Sarah Adams' predictions come true. I mean, all the blame would go on him. All the information would come out. Oh, this guy was under criminal indictment. He was under investigation. He has no experience. He has no aviation experience.
So what's the bottom line? Is the establishment uses these people, these incompetents they're put in, so they don't have to actually spend the money reinvesting, and they're instead pocketing the money, or it's being piped into high yield hedge funds offshore or wherever they're putting their receipts. Is that there must be a reason for this, setting these incompetents up as the kind of scapegoat fall guys for like the system failures. Where's the money going?
Well, many people right now are considering the very odious possibility that some of these fires, in particular, I could reference the Paradise Fire in California, Lahaina in Maui, perhaps Pacific Palisades, still now going, maybe leading into Brentwood next, are a campaign of being able to enact a great reset, to build smart cities, to replace these areas for pennies on the dollar, some of the best areas in some of the most beautiful states, and replace them with a technocratic, city. And there's a lot of validity to that. And that's one of those things that is outside of power politics. That's one of those initiatives that is part of globalism. That's not anything to do with making our nation better. That is to do with bringing in a technocracy in its full force. So and we've seen, and same with North Carolina. North Carolina, that may have just been an attack on the part of the state that, I mean, obviously there's resources there, all kind of things. So yeah, it's everything you mentioned, and on top of that, a larger picture, many would say, of reclaiming lands from the public that they may never get back, or if they do get them back, they'll get it back in a way where they're now stuck in the new modern globo city, smart city sort of paradigm.
Well, the Palisades, because I lived there for 3 months in the autumn of 08. It was a very high-end area, populated with celebrities and California families that had lived there for 3 or 4 generations in many cases. And it was zoned as single-family homes only, no apartment blocks. Now, that's already under threat. They're likely to change it from an 01 to an 03 designation, meaning that apartment blocks can be built on some of the most desirable and expensive real estate in the Los Angeles area. We don't know yet whether that'll become a smart city, but certainly a lot of elites, shall we say, who lived there would have thought themselves immune to any change in designation or status, or conspiracy theories about smart cities. But there it is. It's happened not even on their doorstep. It's happened to their own properties. So, a lot of very wealthy people like to, they think that their money insulates them from wider events, and whether these fires are the result of some wider policy initiative or just simply incompetence. It shows that even if you own a $20 million home in Malibu, that's one of the most supposedly desirable parts of the planet to live, you're still not, you can't escape, the ravages of nature, incompetence, or malfeasance, for that matter, whichever it may be.
Yeah, and there's Gavin Newsom, the governor there, hair gelled back nicely. basically thought he was going to commandeer this crisis as part of his 2028 pre-presidential run, kind of a coming out party for the country again. See the future president in action here, but it's kind of backfired and it's turned into a disaster. And of course, this is probably a grok generated image of him with the Ukrainian flag. I don't think it's authentic, but it symbolizes the loyalty, the prostration of U.S. politicians at the altar of the Ukrainian war effort, or at the altar of Israel. It seems like all of the money, the cash, endless amounts, billions, dozens and dozens of billions flowing to Israel, flowing to Ukraine. That seems to be the number one priority for the government. And you get everybody joining in, clapping like seals, including state governors. I mean, even local governments sending their fire equipment to Ukraine. Like, why would the LA Fire Department be sending equipment to Zelensky? I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. I think they could probably take care of that over on the European side, but it's part of the virtue signaling. Everyone's got to be seen involved in the war effort, because that's part of basically manufacturing consent for the foreign policy. I mean, the levels of corruption are just deep and deep on the domestic level, guys. But on this front, I want to show you, we'll bring on our friend Mr. Elon Musk. We'll check. We're going to bring him back up on stage. Let's talk about the whole war game, the whole business of war. And sorry, I think we got Ruckus in the house. Adam Clark, aka Ruckus. Ruckus, how are you?
Very well, Patrick. Thank you. I was trying my hardest. I'm battling a migraine literally to join in, at least on this part of the conversation, because this is, I want a piece of this action right here, Mr. Musk. So thank you so much for inviting me. I apologize I was a little late, but yeah, I don't trust this guy, and I can't wait to hear what everybody has to say about him.
Oh, Ruckus is rocking the OBS there. Yeah, that's pretty disturbing, that image. Ruckus participated in our great space last night, the Faux War and Terror 2.0, first of multiple episodes on Twitter X Spaces on this topic, part of our great panel that's up on our feed. That was 4.5 hours long, incredible discussion. We did some brilliant analysis on the ground in the Middle East, also in the United States. It was a great discussion. So anyway,
we're doing our part, Patrick, because we're the media now, right?
Yeah, I'm the media now.
Look at me, we're the media now. That's right.
That's right. Yes, you too can you can put up meaningless memes, unsourced news, because you're the media. That's what you need to know. So anyway, we'll on that subject. Oh, and just by popular demand, let's see what we've got here. Yeah. Okay, where is it? We'll bring him on to the stage. Mr. Musk, where are we here? Let's talk about wars. So what does Elon have to say about the wars? Well, this is what he has to say. This is a choice clip, which we're sharing with you. And what I'm pointing out here, guys, is that his views tend to fluctuate. So this is SMX. This is one of Elon's favorite accounts because it boosts Elon. So a lot of people are dying for basically no changes in land, young boys who don't know each other, killing each other on behalf of old men who do know each other. There's lots of sons not coming back to their parents. Most of them don't hate the other side. I mean, this sounds great. This is from a Lex Fridman podcast. I think it was episode 400 of Lex Fridman. That's Elon Musk. We'll play this clip. Lex Fridman, of course, the most exciting and dynamic of all podcasters on the internet. He is a high energy. You guys agree with me?
Yeah.
I think you're trolling again, Patrick.
Okay. Right. Okay, here we go. So let's listen to Elon, see what he has to say in this great clip. Amazing platitudes.
Young boys who don't know each other, killing each other on behalf of old men that do know each other. But the reason I proposed some sort of truce or peace a year ago was because I predicted pretty much exactly what would happen, which is a lot of people dying for basically almost no changes in land. And the the loss of the flower of Ukrainian and Russian youth, and we should have some sympathy for the Russian boys as well as the Ukrainian boys, because the Russian boys didn't ask to be on that front line; they have to be. So there's a lot of sons not coming back to their parents, and I think most of them don't really have. They don't hate the other side. It's sort of like, as the saying about, like this saying comes from World War One. It's like young boys who don't know each other killing each other on behalf of old men that do know each other.
Wow. I mean, sounds good, guys. I mean, who's going to disagree with all that? And of course, Lex Friedman nodding as he normally does, never asks a challenging question to his guests ever. But that's just part and parcel. So that sounds good. I agree with all that. I think you guys are on board with all that, right? Everyone's
Yeah.
we're all on the same page there. That sounds good. I'm on board with all that.
Right.
So
Where's the follow-up question though? Like, what about the policies that led to this? What about the way your tax dollars have encouraged this? What about the chances of this having been stopped before Boris Johnson or whoever was deployed to say no way? What about all the phone calls that were not taken? What about all the, you know what I mean? There's so many questions that you could ask. Are the Russian boys forced as much as the Ukrainian men and boys? Like, what's the, you know what I mean? There's so many nuances. It's like, yes, that's a great starting point, Elon, from right on top of the fence. Like, you're sitting on the fence there stating the obvious. But then and same with Liz Wheeler, talking to Sarah Adams. It's like, well, where's the good follow-up question? I mean, that's when I'm doing interviews, that's something that my brain is constantly doing. Like, what's the right follow-up question? Like, I'm always trying to, like, see the conversation, stay in the conversation, and then be a step ahead so that I know what a good follow-up question is. And sometimes I'm really good at that, sometimes I'm mediocre at that. I get better at it the more I do it. But I see some of these people with 3-4 million subscribers, or a giant social media account, and 2 producers and 2 bookers, and a web person and a graphics person, and it's just like, well, what the hell, like, where's the good follow-up question?
Your problem, Hesher, is you're trying to do journalism, and this is just not on. You don't want to be too smart. Otherwise, YouTube will kick you off, and there goes your monetization. So more platitudes. Let's take a look here. This is Elon, and he's saying the diplomats want war, the warriors want peace. This is on Doge Designer there. I mean, I agree with all that. You guys on board with all that? I'm on board with all that. I think that's a great platitude. I think we can all agree that's a good platitude. So I'm on board with that. So,
It's probably a bumper sticker he saw on his way to work that day.
So
he's wearing the collar of a clergyman there as well, it appears. He looks like belongs in the Catholic
like
Church.
Christian Bale in that dystopic futuristic film, actually, the wrong type of cleric. I forgot the name of that film, but the technocrat. But so
well, I do think there's definitely some sort of messianic complex going on with him, and I mean, to a certain extent, with the best part of $1 trillion, it's arguably understandable,
Sure. Well, that's funny. So that's what he's saying there, but this is the reality. Here's the reality, folks. Okay, beyond the platitudes. This is Elon Musk. He tweeted this on November 1st, 2024. A major factor for why Ukraine was not overrun by Russia is the Starlink support I provided, he said. This is this year. So after all those platitudes and podcasts, at great risk to SpaceX cyber and physical attack by Russian military forces. So what? He's subject to physical attack by Russia, or the satellite? Which one? Because if it's a satellite, that's not a risk to you. That's just going to be a cost of business at the end of the day. So Starlink is the backbone, according to Elon Musk. Starlink is the backbone of the Ukrainian military communications at the front lines. because everything else had been blown up or jammed by the Russians. So he's basically, and the vice prime minister of Ukraine confirms that I am an ally. The vice PM or vice PM, vice PM of Ukraine. Okay, so the Vice is a propaganda outlet that's a cutout for U.S. interests. So they've got a Ukrainian branch. Thank God for that. So I am the backbone. So I'm the media. I'm the backbone of the Ukrainian war effort. The war effort in Ukraine has been a disaster, guys. So what do you make of this? There's great platitudes about war and peace. You know, it's like LARPing is Dostoevsky. And then he tweets this. Why did he tweet this? Because Elon gets caught every time and reacts. He got accused of being a Russian stooge. So if we go look at what's below this, this is what he's reacting to. The Bulwark. The Bulwark is a crazy, mindless, left-wing screed of a blog, okay? Lincoln Project. And I think even Kagan and all sorts of crazy, I'm not sure who the lineup is. It's someone like, it's got some crazy neocons and neolibs, raging Democrats, Russophobes, okay? Elon Musk is Putin's best weapon. First of all, guys, if you're a real conservative, you don't react to anything on the Bulwark because nobody reads the Bulwark. The only people that read the Bulwark are people who watch MSNBC and think that Rachel Maddow is a great journalist. That's their audience. So Elon Musk got panicked. He panicked. He got upset. So he always has to overcompensate. And this is what he says. I provided the backbone for the Ukrainian war effort. Guys, has this been a successful war effort for pushing Ukraine to fight? How many young Ukrainian men have died in the trenches of this war effort that Elon Musk is bragging about publicly that he provided the backbone for, was to keep the war effort going. So he's boasting he's partly responsible for this war of attrition that should have ended. And he has the gumption to go on a podcast like Lex Fridman saying, I made a peace proposal. What the hell does he know about a peace proposal for Ukraine? I have his points of his peace proposal, and it shows he doesn't understand any of the basic concepts of the dynamics of what's at play. He's not serious, but he thinks he can weigh in on geopolitics. Guys, I have nothing positive to say about this. Anybody want to please weigh in if you must, but this is just something.
I'm personally impressed by his geopolitical prowess and ability to do all these things, Patrick, because he's also like one of the top 20 players on a very popular video game. I forgot the name of it already, but like I was just talking about this with a friend of mine who plays this particular video game. I think it's called Baldur's Gate or something. I forget what the game is. Diablo 4. There you go. Elon Musk is one of the top ranked, like in the top 20 players of this game. And I was told from people who play this game, you have to spend hours, weeks, like you're the kid living in your mom's basement, never leaving the computer to get up that high on this video game. How does he have the time to play this video game and to tweet all day long, every day, to run how many companies that he owns, and then to run around, make these comments? And, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I believe he insinuated, and you were mentioning there, Patrick, that he had become a threat. That I remember reading articles allegedly that he was on some sort of kill list. There was all these celebrities' names being passed around, and I think he managed to be like somebody.
Oh, and the Ukrainian. So he on the Meravets. Peacemaker, the Meravets list. So he was deemed because he throttled, apparently, he didn't give Starlink access to Crimea, was one of them. And because there was an operation in progress and they wanted an uplink and he wouldn't provide it. So because of that, he became an enemy of Ukraine. And of course, what does he do? He overcompensates.
He also claimed, if I'm not mistaken, that he solely, Mr. Elon Musk, Iron Man himself, stopped World War III by refusing to allow these Starlinks to be used in certain areas. It was ridiculous.
I mean, this is laughable, guys. To react to the Bulwark shows that you have such thin skin politically. This is literally a clown world blog. Nobody takes it seriously. Even Democrats shriek at it. And he's disheveled by a headline in the Bulwark. If that was anybody respectable, uses this as a badge of honor. I mean, this is great street cred. If you get a screed job in the Bulwark, that's like awesome street cred. That's like it's like being lambasted by Rachel Maddow herself. So I mean, this is great, but he instead reacts to it because his circle, he is a Democrat. Elon Musk is a Democrat. He's a carbon tax guy. Tesla was a liberal status symbol in Washington, D.C. He was a big Democrat, probably a big Democrat donor. I don't know the details of that over the years, but he was all in on all of the woke Silicon Valley stuff, all of it. And
Well,
only
the
the last
bulwark, it appears, was started by Sarah Longwell, who spent millions of dollars in 2020 trying to defeat Donald Trump. And according to the New Yorker, Longwell has dedicated her career to fighting Trump's takeover of the Republican Party. So how did that work out, Sarah?
didn't work out well. But anyway, so the point is he's here he is boasting. So here's what else he said. We have another choice bit to share with you. Now when the Azov battalion was pinned down at Azovstal, you guys remember that drama? That was in like April, May, June of 2022. That was kind of the beginning phases of the Ukraine war, and they were uploading videos, and this is the neo-Nazi battalion branch of the Ukrainian military, and everyone's like, how are they getting internet access? Well, a Starlink terminal apparently was smuggled in there. And of course, when Elon was confronted about this, let's bring it up on screen. Let's turn the clock back to May 9th, 2022. And of course, he's reacting because he's basically been caught sending a satellite uplink to Nazis in Azovstal. And he's arguing the word Nazi doesn't mean what he seems to think it does. From the testimony of the captured commander of the 36th Marine Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Colonel Dmitry Kormyankov, it turns out that the internet terminals of Elon Musk's Starlink satellite company were delivered to the militants of the Nazi Azov battalion and the Ukrainian Marines at Mariupol at the Azovstal plant. Everybody knows that drama. So Russians are accusing Musk of supplying the fascist forces, and Musk is arguing they're not really Nazis. So that's an interesting. Nobody took much note of it at the time because everyone was too busy cheerleading for Ukraine at that moment. So you could pretty much get away with saying anything. But here's the quote, guys, that to me kind of says a lot about who Elon is and what his morals or ethics or lack thereof are. And he says, there are no angels in war. There are no angels in war. That was May 9th, 2022. I mean, that kind of says a lot, that quote. And that's not the only thing he said recently in the AFD interview he did when he's talking about, I think, the existence of God. He's also talked about the ethics of war recently. In another podcast, he said that if there was no war, that might end up being a dystopian world. It's better to have lots of little wars than the big wars. So I'm just questioning, guys, where this guy's ethical or moral compass is, or does he even have one? Because I don't know.
Personally, I think he's just very naive, and not terribly well educated in politics. A lot of people have been saying his attitude changed after that trip to Israel after October the 7th, where he allowed himself to be used by Netanyahu for some ludicrous photo op where he was seen peering inside a cot and all the rest of it. And just this week, the two big Musk stories currently running really are one that he was so heavily ratioed by Ian Carroll, who pointed out a few home truths about Israel. And secondly, of course, he's become the bête noire of the British Labour Party because he keeps demanding a fresh investigation into the largely Pakistani rape and grooming gangs in the north of England. So, that's his current front lines at the moment.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So, Ruckus, what do you think about his his moral and ethical stances regarding war.
I think
peace.
these are concepts completely lost on the dude, to be completely honest with you. I mean, he's the rich. I have to keep reminding people of this. He's the richest person on the planet. And when you look at the varying degrees of how much people dislike, distrust, absolutely spit on, hate on, understand about this, like when you get to a certain stage of billionaires worth of wealth, that you're not a good dude generally, right? I mean, but look at this person's wealth. He's the richest one, and yet everybody seems to just trust him like he's got everybody's back. It makes zero sense to me. I don't think that he was raised in a place where he was like founded in any sort of religion. He keeps flashing all these bizarre anti-Christian symbolisms and Baphomets and all this weird stuff. And he's not a fool, and he's just a troll. He's just a giant troll. So I don't know if he's just a dangerous, useful idiot, or if he's incredibly dangerous and he's just acting, you know. I also think he's outsourced a lot of his personalities and his things. I'm joking about the video game and the X account. Clearly, I think that there are other people who are doing that for him when he's not there doing it, and he just pops in and shows up and makes it look like he's doing it. But why would they do that? They really they want this guy to be absolutely admired. I don't understand. He's not a politician. He's nothing. He's just this guy. He's grandma's boy. He's on
he's something. He's going to be something soon. You know, he's going to be Joint Chief of the Department of Government Efficiency. He was all over Mar-a-Lago.
It's just an advisory board. It doesn't mean anything, Basil.
Well, no, I know, I appreciate that, but he was all over Mar-a-Lago after the election, partying with his new best mate Donald and all the rest of it, and you know, lots of memes doing the rounds that he's going to be the de facto vice president or even the president himself. He'll have, you know, open access to the Oval Office and so on and, you know, so forth. So you know, unfortunately, we've got to take him seriously. I had a few chats with his father, of course, back in the glory days of today's news talk. He was a regular guest on the Muckrakers with myself and Andrew Eborn. He talked about how precocious Elon was as a young boy. But I didn't realize they'd been out of touch with each other for 20 or 30 years, only very, very recently reconciled. And of course, Errol, Elon's father, has his own set of peccadillos, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, look, we're going to bring on a couple of other details on here. So regarding Ukraine, so this is what Elon Musk tweeted on this. This was his, you know, his peace plan, so to speak. I'll bring this up on stage. Redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Crimea, formerly part of Russia, he got that right, as it has been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. Okay, yeah, I'll give him credit there. He got that right. Water supply to Crimea assured. Yep, of course. Ukraine remains neutral. He's talking about NATO there. Yeah,
well, that would be great. That would be great, sense. You know.
So he cribbed that off of Jeffrey Sachs or whatever. Well done, or David Sachs.
It looks like a Grok response, doesn't it?
It could be. I mean, he is friends with David Sachs, who is fairly well clued up on this issue. But the first one doesn't make any sense. Ukraine, Russia, and granted, this was probably back in the end of 2022, I think, or something like that. So he's redo elections in annexed regions. No. That's not going to happen. Those regions, these are regions where the people were getting attacked, shelled. We're talking about Donetsk and Lugansk by Kiev for 8 years. Does that not come into the process at all? No mention of the Minsk Accords. So that's a popular gaslighting position from anybody in Washington, which is don't talk about the Minsk peace process. Okay. Don't mention Istanbul, that peace process. Can't talk about any of that. So the idea that these regions that are ostensibly Russian, all of them, that they're going to go back to Kiev, or that there needs to be free and fair elections. They already had the referendums and the people spoke. So he's basically saying they're illegitimate because the UN weren't supervising it. Let me just say the OECD had an opportunity to play that type of role, but they got caught providing targeting and information for the NATO-backed Ukrainian forces there. So clearly doesn't really have a clue what's going on here in terms of this particular issue. Hesher, do you have something you want to share with us along the Elon front?
Yeah, quickly, you could just put it on the stage there. One of our users in one of the chats. We got some gamers in there. I want to throw this one in here. Elon Musk apparently just became the #1 Diablo 4 player in the world. You can find that at Forbes. Some interesting discussion about how that could possibly be, and comparisons to other gamers. He's also got another game that he has. It's Path of Exile 2. That somehow he's a bigwig on those servers as well. I got to wonder if maybe he doesn't have some ownership of those servers, or if he doesn't. I mean, hey, if you're the richest guy in America, I'm guessing you could probably buy yourself some epic weapon kits and some upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So, sorry to drag us back to where we were a few minutes ago, but I just thought this is very interesting, especially since gamers keep coming up, right? As a source of, information and intelligence. Anyone that lived through Gamergate knows that that is not the case. Not that there's not some smart gamers out there, but anyone that's dedicated to that craft, they're spending all their time on it. So
well, the military has a keen interest in folks who play certain video games. So it's very much part of the whole thing.
The DoD has as many fingers in the gaming industry as they do in the film industry. You're not going to get your Call of Duty game you're developing approved. You're not going to get your next Michael Mann movie approved about anything to do with military hardware in it without the DoD's approval. We've talked about this with Jay Dyer many times on the Boiler Room, and he includes some of this information in his Esoteric Hollywood books. So I could recommend that as well. And real quickly, Patrick, I wanted to share this one too, because I brought it up earlier and it's important with regards to the water supply in California. This is by F. William Engdahl. It was published on 10 June of 2021. And he really goes through and he talks about drought, how droughts are categorized, talks about California agriculture. And right here, the important bit, California crisis man-made. Where has the water gone? This is critical information for anyone trying to blame DEI for what's going on in this nation. And it's sort of the precursor conversation to the context for the conversation I was starting earlier about if this is being done on purpose. Are there directed energy weapons involved? Is there a big land grab happening? And are the conditions being set up on purpose for this? And also the conditions with which to scapegoat power politicians over it instead of our entire corrupt system writ large.
Well, with drone technology, it's not difficult to start fires and leave no fingerprints, just as a starter. Plenty of opportunities there. But I mean, just putting that aside, the privatization of water, water supplies being held by conglomerates, agriculture, people growing almonds and avocados, which are just so intensive in terms of water, but they have the profit margins for these products enough that they can buy whole blocks of state water supplies. Is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you should be importing that stuff, but money talks in the world of lobbying, so it probably has something to do with it. So yeah, F. William Engdahl, this is obviously his wheelhouse, doing research into these sort of things. He's a big pharma whistleblower, best-selling author, great researcher, all-around great human being. F. William Engdahl. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, we probably should get him back on the program to talk about some of these things. He's been notoriously difficult to get a hold of recently because of things going on, and he's just not doing as much media as he used to do years ago. But we'll try to get a hold of William. Thanks for shouting that out. Let's bring Elon back into the frame here. So this is again one of his media performances. He's talking about spending. The spending does not help Ukraine. He's talking about the money. Prolonging the war and sacrificing the flower of youth. Sounds good. Having these boys die for nothing is wrong. and needs to stop. This is the same guy that just a moment ago boasted that he's providing the backbone for the front lines to keep the war going. So a little bit hypocritical, guys. Let's listen to the man himself.
The really important thing to bear in mind here is that this spending does not help Ukraine. Prolonging the war does not help Ukraine. This is very important to appreciate. I think it's fantastic. Like, America wants to be the good guy. You know, that's actually pretty rare. We actually care about whether we're the good guy or not. Most countries don't. And we want to keep that. We want to do the right thing. We want to help people. The problem is prolonging the war and sacrificing the flower of Ukrainian youth, and we should have some sympathy for the Russian youth as well. It's not like they want to be there. And having all these boys die for nothing is wrong, and it needs to stop. And that's what it comes down to.
Okay, so this is the same guy that basically boasted that he's providing the backbone for the Ukrainian war effort with Starlink. So, I mean, a complete first-class hypocrite. And he's the way he mumbles and stumbles through these interviews is getting really annoying. Okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's constantly changing direction and changing his mind, but he wants to be regarded as an authority on everything. Basically, he can't just recuse himself from any of these situations, probably because he's directly involved in them, guys. And that's the strange part here. This guy is basically inserted himself into every election, overseas, at home, whatever, throwing his money around, throwing his leverage around, the space program, the energy policy, the fourth industrial revolution. He's Klaus Schwab's point man on robotics and fourth industrial revolution. He is a World Economic Forum acolyte, to the max. He's AI, Neuralink, robotics, fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset, carbon taxes, the fake green scam of EVs, which are not green. Electric vehicles are not green. They may be one day. They may be one day in the future, but they're not now. But he basically got to where he is at with Tesla, the valuation of it, by pushing this fake climate change green thing, because he was a top-line Democrat. He was a major asset of the Democrat and liberal establishment. And then 12 months ago, 18 months ago, he retooled his image and became conservative. But a lot of people aren't buying it. A lot of people aren't buying it. A lot of people think he's bought his way into the White House to look after his business interests and his vision of the future, along with his buddies, Alex Karp, Peter Thiel. Their vision of the future is an automated vision of the future.
You can't be a Democrat or a Republican if you're a transhumanist, okay? A transhumanist, look at the first part of the word, trans. This is a transhumanist will take any talking point from any political side if it benefits the furtherment of transhumanism and technocracy. All right? This is a new paradigm that most people can't see coming and don't know the definition of. And you can't, like, he does such a great job of sitting on the fence, switching sides, being able to speak to both sides. But when you really peel the layers away, it all leads to, he never says anything against transhumanism or technocracy. And Patrick, you know, this may be a cul-de-sac of tinfoil hattery here, so forgive me. But you talked about his cadence, right? The way he talks, and a lot of people think, well, that's just his brilliance, right? And maybe it is. Maybe it's just a sort of
autist,
yeah.
Thing.
But have you guys? I think all four of us on this call know what it feels like to have to be having a conversation with someone and have a voice in your ear, like say your board operator, or maybe for some broadcasters out there that actually even have their producer in their ear, or in echo. Maybe some of you streamers out there know what it's like if you turn a stream on and there's an echo and you have to fight through it. You kind of sound like Elon does when he talks, when that's happening, when you're trying to split your attention between what you're saying, who you're responding to, who you're listening to, and that voice in your head. And it makes me wonder, does this guy have his Neuralink installed already? Is there is Grok internalized and helping him through some of these conversations? Is his personal Grok's main primary directive to help him say exactly the thing he needs to say to further the concepts of technocracy and transhumanism? You gotta wonder.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of a deep conspiracy there, but actually, you don't even need a Neuralink. They have new inserts for earpieces. This is what Obama and Hillary used. You can't even hardly see it. You
Virtually invisible, and they have jewelry now too. Like people accused Kamala of using the earrings that do a certain thing.
I mean, I've got an earpieces in here because I don't want to look like a dork like Joe Rogan with a freaking headset on. So I just use these because they're more elegant. But as you can see, there's a wire around the back, hooks around the back of the ear. But some of these people, like politicians, they don't have any of this. They just have a little wireless Bluetooth job, like tiny. You just stick it into the ear. This is what spies use. And so
they might want to reconsider that after the exploding mobile devices that we saw, Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The exploding mobile devices. Yeah, that's actually connected to another exploding device of recent that a lot of people are questioning in Las Vegas. If you can make pagers blow up, I'm sure you can do something to a Cybertruck. But we won't go there. That's just another unusual rabbit hole, guys. But anyway, I just have a lot of questions, really, about this guy's motivation, and some of his statements are completely inconsistent. And he also seems
as much as anything else, he's living proof that we live in a plutocracy. The only reason people are paying any attention to him is because he's got so much money and has accrued so many followers on X, and then he's bought himself access to Donald Trump. Trump himself is a billionaire. The days when anybody supposedly could run for president of the United States are long since over. So money talks. It's as simple as that, Patrick. That's why he's got the platform that he has. He's inconsistent. He's incoherent. I don't think he's as fundamentally dark-hearted as many of the other actors on the world stage, but he's terribly naive, and he's been absolutely appalling about the genocide in Gaza in recent weeks. He seems to be very concerned about British children being raped, but doesn't give two figs about other children elsewhere in the world. Hence, he was so comprehensively ratioed by Ian Carroll this week.
Yeah, that was the worst. That was the worst ratio probably in the history of Twitter. And it's left Elon Musk. It's left his charred remains.
That's right.
On X,
and he hasn't responded, as far as I know. I don't think he's been able to reply.
He can't, unfortunately, respond because he just so thoroughly got smashed and hammered on that. So.
All these conflicting views don't add up, and I have to question whether or not that's on purpose. Like so many of these things. Like is his job just to come in here and just act like a bull in a china shop and finish killing it, and so they can replace it with something else? Because it doesn't make any sense. Nothing adds up.
Well, we talked about the fake news revolution on X, which he has engineered by creating an algorithm that basically incentivizes unsourced tweets and news. So there's no external links. So he's empowered all of these grifters, and he's paying them thousands of dollars a month in X monetization because of the performance of their fake news tweets. So he's created a kind of fake news ecosystem on X, and then he's boasting, "We are the media, you are the media," and X is the #1 source of news on the planet, but it's not really. So it's he has incentivized the worst problem, and as you guys know, and Ruckus will know as well, you create a problem, which is terribly convenient if you have the solution just off to the side. And of course, he tweets out just the other day that Grok will become the best source of truth in the future. Grok will become the best. So as no one can trust anything. There's fake news flying around. He's paying them to put up garbage news. It's not news. It's being packaged as news, but they're basically tweets with breaking news headlines. And I'll bring a couple of examples if I could up. But then he's basically incentivizing all of that, and he's paying them to do it. So he's creating the actual problem. So you guys know what the result is going to be. Ryan Dawson said it best. Ryan Dawson said, X has become a competition for Elon's attention. And it's
Yes.
even Ian Carroll or any of these people, because they interacted with Elon, this is why they've blown up. This is how you get 1 million, 2, 3, 4 million followers, is Elon boosts you, or you get involved with him, and he chooses who blows up and who doesn't on this platform. So if you
But how come when I tag his name, they give me like the immediate likes from the porn bots? I don't get it.
Yeah, there are there's quite a bit of that going on this platform as well. Something that he promised not to allow, or that said they're going to have a transparent algorithm and all this stuff. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. Here we go, Ryan Dawson. This is a piece of artwork, one of the best tweets probably that I have seen in a very long time. I'll bring this up on stage. Ryan is an astute observer of many things, and he's showing it here. Look at this. Twitter is a battle for Elon's attention. He has all the reach. Whatever he says becomes news. January 10th, Ryan Dawson at Rye Liberty. Guys, Ryan, has he nailed it?
Oh, absolutely. And Ryan's own profile has been considerably raised in recent months as well. He's one of the sort of winners of the recent Twitter wars, isn't he? But he's absolutely right. There's kind of the X of the Elon Musk orbit, and then there's the rest of X.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Now this brings us to the piece de la resistance. Let me just find it. Here we go. We ran a little exercise on the X platform, guys. I decided to break a story. I am so inspired. Ruckus, you guys, Hesher, Basil, you can appreciate when Elon jumps up and down and says, "You are the media." I just got so inspired because I never felt like I was the media before. All those years in the trenches doing investigative journalism. Running independent media platforms, building independent media platforms, broadcast, web, written, and seeing all these decentralized tools being used and using them for the last 20 years. And Elon comes around in the last 6 months and decides to tell us that we are the media. I was just so touched by it, Hesher. I'm sure you were as well. So moved. So I decided to take Elon's cue and become the media, like the way that he likes the media to be, like Ian Miles Chong, Mario Nafal, Jackson Hinkle, all these people putting up, daily, quasi Daily Mail, unsourced breaking news tweets, and then getting millions and millions and millions of views, and probably raking in thousands and thousands and thousands per month in X monetization. So I did a little, because the real news isn't going anywhere. So I decided to make up a story. And here's the story. Tell me if you like it. Breaking. Jeffrey Epstein was a secret Muslim. The island shrine, Little St. James, was really a mosque. Sources on X claim in a viral tweet. Musk and Jordan Peterson are livid, now demanding that Trump step down. Congress must be dissolved and a national investigation held. Source, you are the media, and random X accounts. So Jeffrey Epstein is a Muslim. Is that enough to get a national inquiry in America? Because it's not working so far, guys. I decided to make Jeff a Muslim. There he is. I tagged Jordan. There's Dr. Jordan Peterson, doctor of psychology. There's the mosque. I mean, this is just as good as anything else that Elon's boosting in his favorite X accounts, right? Is this, if Elon
Sure.
retweeted this, tell me this, guys, riddle me this. If Elon retweets this, then it becomes official. It becomes true.
It'll be a story on Newsweek, Gateway Pundits, you name it.
It becomes news. It becomes the #1 news story in the world. If Elon,
Well, there are plenty of people that would like to reframe Epstein as a Muslim and not working for who everybody knows he was working for.
not just a Muslim, a secret Muslim, he's practicing taqiyya, like the
Right.
New Orleans truck driver, secret Muslim, so as not to arouse any suspicion by authorities. So, hey, I am the media. You are the media. We're all the media. Let's make some stories up, and of course, let's look at the views on this. Of course, the community noters get in and said, no, they didn't realize it was satire. They said, no, Jeffrey Epstein is a Jew. And
That's an anti-Semitic community note, I might add.
It is. And they even dropped his Wikipedia link there, proving that he is indeed Jewish. So this got, before Elon put the brakes on it, it got 517,000 views, okay, before they shut it down. So that was pretty good. No article I've ever posted will ever get that, even if it's a breaking national security consequential story. X will not allow my account to get that sort of reach. But if you create a fake story, there's lots of freedom of reach. If you're in the fake news business, you can make shit tons of money on X. Shit tons of money. You don't even need to show your face. You just need a sock puppet account with some Fox or something else, and then boom, you're off to the races. So, and again, if you check on the replies, guys, this is validated. The story's been double confirmed by MAGA Malaysia accounts. Elon said, wow, insane. That's validation. It's been triple confirmed. Mario mentioned it on a crypto space. He said he saw it on Bricks News. So that's a third-hand sourcing there. That's triple confirmation. You're the media. Peter Sweden's looked at it as well. Got a view from Peter Sweden. Piers Morgan promises to cover both sides of this story. This is a bombshell story. Tommy Robinson supporters are not happy about this. They're demanding a national inquiry because of Jeffrey Epstein is now a Muslim, which means that Jeffrey Epstein was running a Muslim grooming operation, which is way worse than any other child abuse syndicate. So Tommy Robinson and his supporters are threatening to boycott Carling and Strongbow products until a nationwide ranging inquiry is held. What do you think about that, Basil? Some BDS pressure coming from Tommy's terrorist support gangs. No Carling, Strongbow sales are going to go through the floor. It's going to be a disaster, much like Starbucks suffered after the Gaza genocide. Tommy's putting pressure on. We're just making this stuff up, guys. This is all satire.
Yeah, is there anybody that's actually taken it seriously, Patrick?
Yes, there are. A number of MAGA accounts have run with this. And
really?
Yes, many of them.
Also, another important part of your experiment here is a lot of people just assumed it was correct and shared it because of the source, because they trust you, Patrick. So see how all of this works, you know?
Yeah,
and you didn't mean any ill by it, but if you're somebody who can build up an audience, a huge audience, and gain their trust, just saying.
Exactly. I'll show you. Obviously, if you scroll down and read these comments, you realize this is a total piss take. Sources at 23andMe were heard saying that Epstein's father is part Pakistani. This changes everything. Source, you're the media. So again, Epstein, not only a secret Muslim, but part Pakistani. This makes it even more scandalous, Basil. Jordan Peterson, of course, could not help but weigh in on this story. There he is with his Jekyll and Hyde suit. Jordan says he weighs in very upset. He says, you know, this is not good at all. Like, yeah, it's really bad, but it could have been way worse. Jordan Peterson, one of the great intellects. And of course, you talked about those big influencer accounts, Ruckus, Matt Wallace. It's basically copied it. He's using it for engagement farming, and he's saying, "What do you notice about this tweet?" It's a serious inside humor here. It's a serious dark sarcasm.
You know, I just want to point this out, Patrick, and maybe it just hit me because we have such a mind meld, but I speed read the first part, right? What you wrote, the bulk of it, and then I saw the source part, and I knew that it was a satire piece. So someone that's really following us and absorbing what we're saying here, that was your clue. That was the breadcrumb trail right there. The little clown emoji, the "you are the media." Like,
right.
compare that to what you see on Mario's feed.
Or Elon did that. He did one of these source, and he just typed in the title of it, and you can't, like Samoa Times, because like Starlink is now in Samoa, and he said source Samoa. Elon doesn't provide the link because Elon's algorithm penalizes freedom of reach if you include a source link, an external web link, because he wants to keep the traffic on X. So is this not insidious? This whole scam. We are, and he goes out jumping up and down like, "You are the media," like, the CEO jump on stage. Unbelievable. So anyway, you'll love this one, Basil. IDF has been brought in to probe under the suspected Epstein Mosque on Little St. James. No less than 7 Sharia courts are believed to be hidden underground, all connected by tunnels. Elon is, of course, reacting, said concerning, says Elon Musk. Source Visegrad 24, still gray. And I'm not sure who else is who's the source on this. Show more. Hindustan Times, of course. This is a top source. And there's Elon. Call your MP and show them my tweet, says Elon. In there, he's got this Elon literally uses this JPEG. It's grifted off of a UN vote, I think. And he says that X is #1 in all these countries, but some of these countries have X blocked. So there's no way they could be #1. Like Russia, for instance. There it is. It's blocked in Russia. So like this guy has like no standards for the garbage and the fake news that he posts, and just masquerading as news and media. It's kind of disgusting. Why would I be offended by this, guys? I mean, why would you be offended by it? Because you actually make an effort to try to do good journalism and top line research on serious topics, and you got the richest guy in the world who's made his account the biggest on the platform because he's forced himself into your news feed if you have an account at X. So he's got 210 million followers, and he's pushing out garbage. He literally pushed out a fake tweet of an MP roll call. I don't know if I'll find this one in a minute, but also, just to be fair, guys, to offset any of the negativity generated by this thread, as Elon has himself decreed, we must fulfill our freedom of reach obligations to promote positivity on X. So therefore, I'm dropping this algorithm-friendly cat mem. Try to top this for positivity. Look at this. Look at this little guy. Is this good or what?
That's terribly positive, Patrick. You should win an award.
This should break the algorithm. That's how good my cat memes are. Okay, that offsets all the negativity right there. Look at that. Look at that guy. So
adorable. I feel better already. All the black I just vomited up 20 years of black pills, and I feel wonderful. Thank you, Elon, for giving Patrick this platform.
It's the purge. It's better than those pads that he advertises that you put on your feet.
Purge.
Purge, yeah, the foot pads and all the impurities come out. You wake up at night or in the morning and like everything's out of your system. So that's that. And what I want to show you, do you want to see? So you guys aren't from. So anyway, that's Epstein's a secret Muslim, very high performing fake news story. It's intentional. It's satire. Yes, I did that and purposely to prove a point. Ruckus, you even got Grok to test this out. What did Grok say about this?
Not much helpful. It just took the content of the post and spat it back out. So if you didn't know any better, Grok would assume that what you said was true. Neat.
Yeah, you said Ruckus. I did my civic duty. I asked Grok about this to make sure. So this is what Grok had to say about this story. The post references Jeffrey Epstein, a notorious American financier and convicted sex offender, died in 2019, sparking various conspiracy theories. What does that have? Grok doesn't even mention the fact that we've established by validation of X, we are the media, that he's a secret Muslim. And it says the mention of Epstein's Island shrine is being a mosque ties into ongoing controversies and conspiracy theories about Epstein's life. What kind of BS is Grok is basically bullshitting. So this AI engine is like not very smart.
Sounds like something Elon would have said if he was on a podcast. Just saying.
He might have actually wrote this for Grok.
Also, what Grok does is it'll give you a little link into source where it's getting this information from. The information about how he died in 2019 or whatever, it's coming from mainstream media news articles outside of the platform X.
So well done for checking that. Breaking: Grok can't do satire. That's my my headline on that. But you are the media. You are the media, guys. It's all up to you. You revolutionize fake news. Get involved. It pays well. Get on X. And so let me show you this humdinger that Elon put out. And we with our fake news, we struggle to get 500,000 views or whatnot. When Elon puts out fake news, you should seize the metrics on the stuff that he puts out, unless he deleted it because he got panned so badly for it. It had to do with the Windrush scandal. Basil, you're familiar with the Windrush scandal?
Of course, well, yes, of course.
So for our American viewers who don't know what the Windrush is or the Windrush scandal, could you put it into a very brief synopsis for our American audience?
Yeah, well, the Windrush years were the 1950s and 1960s when the UK government decided to invite lots of people from the West Indies, from the Caribbean, from the former British colonies, which were one by one becoming Commonwealth countries, particularly Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana, etc. And they came to England to fill in for the labour shortage after the Second World War, and of course stayed and became the majority of the Afro-Caribbean immigrants and their descendants in Britain to this day. That's the scandal, was that a lot of them were not in possession of all the correct paperwork and were sent home or told to go home, though the number of people that were actually deported was very small.
So what you're saying is that's a serious issue, right? That's a serious scandal, right?
Yes, exactly.
It affected people's lives, didn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
And
Yeah.
would you agree that the West Indian community, a tremendously important part of post World War II Britain, on many different levels, were provided a lot of cultural items and motifs that people still hold near and dear to their heart even today. People say,
well, yes, I mean, not everybody in Britain thinks it was such a fantastic idea, but reggae music, jerk chicken, cannabis,
London
these
Underground, didn't a lot of the Windrush people help to build the London Underground?
Oh, and not built it. It was mostly built by the Victorians, but they certainly staffed it and the buses.
A lot of engineers came. They had a huge core of engineers, people from the West Indies, qualified engineers, administrators. All. So why did they do? Because Britain needed the manpower. They needed the labor. They needed the expertise. They needed the people from their former colonies. As the empire receded, then obviously Britain called on its former imperial possessions and residents therefrom to come and help post-World War II Britain, right?
That's right. And they came from the West Indies and also from the Indian subcontinent, from India and Pakistan, so-called new Commonwealth countries.
And Uganda as well. A lot of Asians.
Well, the Ugandan Asian thing was different. They were expelled by Idi Amin in the
That's right.
1970s.
Yep. So here's what Elon did during his Tommy Robinson crusade here this week. He basically says, remember these names in the next election here. Look at this. So he circled Sarah Olney, Ed Davey, Alistair
I think it's Ed Davey that he's after there.
Okay, Ed Davey. So he's saying that these people blocked the deportation of Muslim rapists. Okay, that's what he's basically inferring. And he has this list here that he's been given because he is the richest man in the world. He has the best people
Do
working.
you want to just scroll up a bit so we can read the tweet?
Oh, my bit says unhinged Elon here doubles down on this Tommy fail getting destroyed in by his own community notes. So basically he's posted a fake, right? So look at this. This is just your typical internet cheap JPEG, probably grafted off Twitter. Here's a list of MPs who voted against deporting foreign rapists. They all need removing. So what does Elon do? He just goes ahead and retweets it because he's smart like that. He is he's not only the richest man in the world, he is the smartest man in the world. And so he's done this. But guess what? He got blasted by his own community note and then he deleted it. So isn't that funny, guys, how his community note, so you see everyone say got owned by your community notes, got owned by your community notes. Where's the community note, guys? Did Elon remove the community note? Let's double check. Oh my gosh. Elon has deleted the community note criticizing him on X for posting a fake item, basically. Yeah.
And we've got conservative accounts out there now cheering on Zuckerberg for
That's right.
stating that he's going to do the same thing as Elon. I mean, that's what Zuckerberg's message was basically. Oh, sorry, the government made me do it, and I'm going to be more like Elon. I'm going to be more like X. Okay, does that mean to me? That means so I'm still going to be shadow banned. I'm still going to be told my website doesn't exist. I'm still going to have no freedom of reach. And when your own system doesn't work in your favor, you're in charge, boss. You can delete your own community notes. Great.
So he got owned by his own community note. It's really embarrassing. What sort of traffic? Oh, let me see. I got only 45. What did Elon get on this fake post? Oh, only 17.5 million views, guys. 17.7 million views.
Not 33.3. What's up?
No, for posting a fake. Basically, this is a list of MPs from the Windrush scandal, Basil. From the Windrush scandal. That's what.
Well, the Windrush scandal has nothing to do with foreign rapists.
I know. This is a doctor.
So that's his mistake. Yeah.
So someone took the list, added that headline at the top, sent it to Elon, and he, of course, mindlessly retweeted it without a care in the world, and then deletes the community note, or has it deleted, or somebody deleted it, because as you can see on the comments, everybody's talking about the community note. You've been owned in the community note. So, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. Anyway, I screenshotted the community note. I will upload it in a moment, just to be thorough on that. But he was totally cooked. I mean, this is embarrassing. So in his crazy kind of over-the-top effort to pump up Tommy Robinson as a Pulitzer Prize-winning Julian Assange figure, he's literally putting up fakes.
His dad last week said Tommy Robinson would one day become Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Is that right?
He said that. Yeah, Errol said that. Yeah.
He's going to have to duke it out with Andrew Tate first, apparently.
Errol.
That's right.
Errol. So Elon's dad thinks Tommy's going to be Prime Minister of England. I mean, that would be
That's right.
That would be like Terry Crews in the Idiocracy, basically.
Absolutely.
For Britain.
And worse, far worse.
Doesn't he have a criminal record as long as as long as the arm of Manute Ball. I mean, sorry. Does everyone know who Manute Ball is? No, anyway,
I mean, like 9 feet tall or something.
it's the Sudanese Sultan of SWAT, Manute Ball. I have to bring a Manute Ball clip up. I love Manute Ball. This guy was a legend. He played for the Warriors back when the Warriors were really terrible. Remember Hesher back in those days?
Yeah, I
When
had
they-
I had a roommate who was an ardent Warriors fan, and he smashed our television when they lost one of the big playoff games. So yeah, I know how their fans are and the team.
They're a fighting team though. I mean, I love the Warriors, but when Joe Barry Carroll was center, then they brought in Manute Ball, who's 7'8", and Manute basically didn't want to play inside, so the 7'8" guy, lanky Dinga tribesman from Khartoum, sat out behind the 3-point lines, chucking threes, and he became a good 3-point shooter. He was incredible. I love Manute Ball. He's such a great guy, character. I met him when I was 13. He came to our basketball camp, and when the car rolled up, you should see the kids. We all went wild. A camp director said, "We've got a special guest coming," and this car rolls up. I kid you not, and they took the front seat out. He was in the passenger side, but there's no front seat. He's sitting in the back seat. They had removed the front seat on the passenger side because he was so big. And when he got out, it was like, oh my God, look at this guy. And it's like looking at a giant, like the Nephilim just came down from Andromeda. We digress. But anyway, it's probably a healthy digression. Not to talk about Elon anymore, guys. But anyway, I think the point's been made. It's an absolute circus. I mean, it's a shit show. To pardon my French, but like what X has become in terms of like news and media, and the things that get boosted, and the accounts that are just making ungodly sums of money, putting out absolute forgeries and fabrications, and quite frankly, a lot of propaganda. It's kind of depressing. But when Elon's jumping up and down with this kind of "we are the media" trope, it's just too much. And
Can I say something about that? This will be my final comment on that for this one. I remember in like 2010, somewhere around 2010 or so, watching David Icke on the Alex Jones show back when Prison Planet was a thing, right? Back when Alex Jones used to help educate people about false flags and police states and globalism and stuff. And David Icke said something that stuck with me, and I know it stuck with a bunch of people also. He said, it was one of those light bulb moments where, and I'll have to paraphrase, but he basically said that we need to be the media. The media is one of our worst enemies that we have right now. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we can operate at their level of quality, of production quality, not information and analysis quality, but the level of production quality and journalistic practices, right? Proper, appropriate journalistic practices. And Jones had even made comments like that too on his own a couple of times back in those days. And that was one of the many things, dozens of things that lit a fire under my ass. And okay, cool. Like I know tech. I have a master's degree in information technology management. I can figure out how to do that. And I had a very keen interest in taking expensive enterprise systems and making them smaller, more efficient, affordable, things like that. And we got involved in podcasting, live streaming. At the time, podcasting really wasn't a thing people said in 2010 very often. So we got into live streaming, and then I met you, and in all of that, to me, it was like, okay, I want in on the conversation. I want in on building the the platform paradigm that we can use to do exactly what David Icke and Alex Jones circa 2010 were suggesting, which is take the narrative away from the propagandists and package it and display it in a way that can compete with the likes of CNN and Fox. And that took a long time for us to perfect just the audio side of that. That's why we're alternate current radio, because that was where we started with audio. And Patrick, Basil, you guys, Ruckus, you all remember the struggles that we went through, climbing the technological ladder, climbing the learning curve, perfecting analysis, perfecting journalism, perfecting public speaking. And then we took it to video, you know what I mean? And here we are, right? So what, we're 15 years out from that inflection point that I had at that day, and Elon, you want to come along and tell every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you're the media now, after people like us have just put 15 years of sacrifice, even longer for you, Patrick, decades of sacrifice, decades of learning, blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point that David Icke suggested. And you want to just shit on that, Elon? You want to just shit on that and tell everybody that the likes of Mario and some of these other people are what the media is now? Promoters of fake news? Sorry, dude. Sorry, Elon. You can get the fuck out of here.
The caller. He's and for good reason. For good reason. So you won't like the graphic that I'm about to put up on screen. But Hesher, I wonder if Elon grafted his tagline off of David Icke. Do you know? Is that possible?
I do too. Because you know what, David Icke. Shout out to David Icke, because he's been, a pit bull on X for the longest time, but in particular in recent events, and pointing these things out and still saying that. So it's possible that Elon stole that from something David Icke said, 2 months ago instead of 15 years ago.
Yeah, and by the way, so Hesher used profanity so that we don't have to. So it's because everybody's thinking
you all already did, my friend.
Everybody's thinking the same thing, Hesher. It's like an insult, basically. I'm gonna pump up all this fake garbage, and this is the media now. And so he himself doesn't even have any journalistic acumen. And so this is basically where we're at, guys. Right there. You are the media. Yay. It's just so inspirational. I mean, it's just kind of a ridiculous CEO LARP. I don't even know what to say anymore. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Ruckus is like, oh my God, how did it come to this, Ruckus?
Well, again, I think this is all a trick. It's all a trap. It's all being done on purpose. I had just gotten done doing like a 7-part series all about disinformation, because outside of X, in the mainstream media, for the folks who still watch CNN and all of that, they want you to think that fake news is the most dangerous thing to the entire planet. And if that's the case, then what X is doing, what Elon Musk is doing in all of his sock puppet accounts and copycatter wannabes, all the people who are following the little breadcrumb X money pittance, they're now a part of the problem. So I don't know where we're heading with this. Is again, I think he's just a bull in a china shop. They just want to destroy trust. I mentioned this on the X space last night. But we're just coming off the heels of a Biden administration where people have lost their trust in the media, lost their trust in the government, lost their trust in the FBI, the DHS, all of these things. So now people are blindly trusting social media, which is probably the last thing that anybody should trust. I mean, it's terrible. And these articles that I was reading for the Disinfo series, there are books and programs and videos you can watch. You can learn how to check for sources. And I'm like, well, nobody's checking for any sources on X. And when they do actually source something, they're sourcing a mainstream media who inside their article, the only source is either at best, they say, according to sources familiar to the matter, or you cannot make this crap up. Their source is a tweet on Twitter.
Yeah.
So what is going
Yeah.
on? It's a giant circle. You know what? I'm not going to say that word on your program.
Elon put source Tesla owners SV, which is an account on X, like Tesla owners Silicon Valley, like that's a source. And
Well, they're not
Mario,
lying. They are the media now. They're doing the same crap that the media was guilty of doing, and they're no better. And we're not getting any more further forward. Every time us, the real media, take a giant step forward, they pull us all back by these shenanigans. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, you said it. They're basically, he's basically created a replica of the mainstream media on this platform, which is just garbage, making so much fake news, and destroying the credibility of real journalism. Exactly that the mainstream media have done. Elon's replicated that whole process so that Grok will become your single source of truth. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, fake news everywhere. Reaction, oh my God, I'm confused. I don't know what to believe anymore. Solution, Grok will be your single source of truth. Who said that? Chris Cuomo? So one of the mainstream media says we will be your single source. No, Jacinda Ardern. Jacinda Ardern. Don't listen to anybody. Will be your single source of truth during COVID and the vaccine and all that. And everybody railed against that. Elon tweets out, in the future, Grok is going to be becoming the best source of truth. And everyone's just, oh, Elon, wonderful. You are the media. Oh, it's great. It's glorious. It's just so ridiculous. And there's so much simping going on. Let's just quit. I'm just going to quit. Hesher, let's just start simping for Elon and get a piece of the action. I can produce. I've shown you how I can make a fake news story and make it go viral. I could do this all day, do what all these other accounts do, which is just fabricate news, package it as breaking news, and make tons of money on X monetization. Some of these accounts are making between 5 and 10 grand a month minimum. Some of them are making more. Some of them have copied and have multiple accounts making 5+ grand a month. Some of them. So like, hey, let's just get in on the act. I mean, because that's what Elon's boosting. So you know, guys, you are the media. We're in the wrong game. Journalism doesn't pay. Definitely doesn't pay. We're not throwing in the towel just yet, though.
By the way, in case anyone was curious what Grok actually looks like, there was a recent phenomenon where people were asking Grok, they would say, draw me. You remember that? And everybody was making, I haven't done that yet. I did something completely different. I asked Grok to draw itself. And here's what Grok thinks it looks like. So this explains a lot. There is Grok according to Grok.
Oh, you're kidding me. Are you serious?
I'm not kidding. I'm deadly serious. That is what Grok thinks it looks like.
Or is that what Elon thinks Grok looks like?
Well, but I bring it up because you mentioned the simp word, and I'm just like, well, this fits perfectly. Grok wants everyone to simp for it.
That is highly disturbing, to say the least. Ruckus, what's going on here? This AI world is really strange and weird. And the top gamers are the richest people in the world who are running all information and deciding what's true and what's not. I think that's kind of dystopic, don't you think?
Yep. And it's only going to get worse.
Opinion. Who am I? I'm the media. I'm the media. You're the media.
Reminds me of that Christian Bale movie you were mentioning earlier, which I remembered since is called Equilibrium. Highly recommend Equilibrium if you haven't seen it.
Yes, Equilibrium. Yeah.
There's a puppy involved too. Main character is a puppy. Changes everything.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. I remember that. Equilibrium. Let me see if I can bring that image back up on stage. Hold on for a minute. Let me just see. I think I have that tunic coat you said looked like a vicar's column. Here we go. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. Is this what we're talking about here, guys? This one. Equilibrium. There it is. Totally Christian Bale in Equilibrium. So basically a psychotic technocrat society. Right. So interesting, isn't it? There it is, guys. There it is. That's Christian Bale in Equilibrium. The last thing was Dystopia. Anyway, awesome, guys. Awesome conversations. Great data, great information, great analysis. Brian McLean, Hesher, host of the
Before
board.
we go, I just I know it's very early, but let's have a first look at the 2028 betting market for the presidency of the United States, because
Hold on,
there's
hold
been
on.
some significant money for someone.
Wait. I'm going to go around the horn. I'm going to get final comments first, Basil, and then at the end, we want to see where the smart money is going on the election. Hesher, your final thoughts, and give a shout out to the Boiler Room.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I don't have any profound final thoughts today. I think I've spent much of my ammo here between this show and last night. I feel like I've exorcised a lot of technocratic demons and geopolitical demons with you and our colleagues. So, yeah, find me at Alternate Current Radio. That's our website right there. Give us a visit over there. If you're listening on X or YouTube or Rumble or wherever, please follow Boiler Room and Alternate Current Radio and the Daily Ruckus and the Sunday Wire and 21 Wire. We need all your help to break those algorithms. So there's the website on the screen right there, alternatecurrentradio.com. That's where you find us.
Yeah, go to ACR. Great website, by the way. Amazing work. Ruckus and the team. Hesher, everybody. Adam Clark, aka Ruckus. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, after doing last night and today, I've spoken my piece about this, and I will finish my thoughts about this, actually, an extension on my own show, where I'm going to be talking about AI on the next episode of the Daily Ruckus, which should be out tomorrow. And my intention with the Daily Ruckus moving forward is I can't do every day. It's a little rough. Plus, I do the Boiler Room, and I help out with X Spaces sometimes and music. I'm like, why don't I just do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, skip Thursday, and if I'm feeling up for it, I might do a special thing on a Friday. But the first 3 days of the week, I'm dedicating. I'm going to try to at least get out some new content for everybody, Monday through Wednesday at least. And then, of course, you'll find me everywhere else in between. And I guess I have some breaking news about the LA fire that I need to share because they caught somebody apparently who was starting fires. And it looks to me, at least according to this person who's doing the deaf person who does all the hand signals. Mm-hmm. I interpret this as the person who started the fire is clearly Ray Gun, the Australian breakdancer. Either that, or as one of my listeners, our listeners pointed out, it might be a gay rabbit. Who knows what's up with that? But thank you. Yeah. The squirrel. It could have been a squirrel. But yeah, so thanks for having me. Check out the Daily Ruckus at alternatecurrentradio.com and follow me on X. I blasted through my first 1K followers all by my little lonesome. So that was exciting. Thank you to all who followed me. And I guess that's it for me.
Ruckus, Adam Clark, aka Ruckus, ladies and gentlemen. Again, his program is the Daily Ruckus. Ruckus is doing some amazing work and has done for a long time. You'll find his podcast very informative and captivating, I can tell you for sure. So do check him out. Follow him on social media as well. Mr. Valentine, if you have some spare change and you're thinking about having a flurry, what do you do with that money?
Flutter.
Flutter?
Word.
I thought it was a flurry.
No, you have a flurry of snow and you have a flutter on the horses. But a significant market move for Trump's sapper, for the man sent to Greenland, yes, into 14-1 to be elected president of the United States in 2028 is Donald Trump Jr.
Wow. So Abu that makes Donald Abu Trump.
Right.
Abu Trump.
Yeah. Don Jr., significant move in the markets into 14-1. Money also for Ivanka Trump.
Really?
So people think the Trump train is going to keep going. JD Vance, the 5-2 favorite. Gavin Newsom on the drift at 11-1,
Yeah.
20-1, and bigger anyone else.
And drifting as we speak.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's
drifting like a barge, Newsom.
right. So Don Jr. is dispatched on the Boeing.
He was sent to Greenland to plant a flag. In fact, they did a photo op in a restaurant in Greenland, and everybody wearing MAGA hats. Apparently, the additional personnel were homeless people that had been dragged in out of the cold and were given a MAGA hat and told to pose for the photograph in exchange for a hot meal.
I wouldn't want to be homeless in Greenland of all places.
No.
California is not bad. I mean, they're all over Venice because it's a great place to be homeless. But
well, next time we speak, he will be in office, so, remains to be seen which ways things are going to go. Some whispers, he's been retweeting bits of Jeffrey Sachs, complaining about Bibi. So, yeah, so is Musk, actually, but we'll have to wait and see. Netanyahu has apparently been applying a lot of pressure via the Qataris to get a deal done in the Middle East before he takes office. He wants to concentrate on other things, apparently. But Netanyahu is holding out because his bargain is going to be, okay, I'll stop slaughtering women and children if you greenlight the annexation of the West Bank.
Because they already have the Golan Heights, don't they?
Well, they think they do.
So that's why Bibi's not coming to the inauguration. Many thought that was a snub. Many are saying that they didn't like Trump tweeting the Jeffrey Sachs video, saying
right.
the slagging off the Israelis, that was bad form. Bibi is not coming because of that. Do you think that's true?
It might be. I mean, he would face huge protests, even though on the same day that the Palisades was burning down, US lawmakers had nothing better to do than pass a resolution in the House of Representatives threatening to sanction anyone from the International Criminal Court. I mean, the US is painting itself into its own private corner of hell. Indeed.
Well, taking on Canada and Greenland. So an imperialist expansion.
I don't know if you saw it. I don't want to open another whole can of worms, but Jesse Waters was admonishing the premier of Ottawa in Canada. He had him on his saying he was profoundly insulted by the fact that the premier of Ottawa did not want to become a citizen of the greatest nation on earth, the United States. And then the following day, half of LA burnt down,
Yeah, exactly. Not so much talk about Canada right now, right? Yeah, I know. We don't have any problems.
Canada is sending firefighters,
We don't have any problems in America.
That's right. Everything's great.
Everything's great. It's wonderful. So let's just focus on acquiring
more territory.
More territory, because we don't have a homeless problem.
That's
we don't
right.
have a VA problem. We don't have any of that. We don't have runaway inflation, a cost of living issue. I haven't got any of that. It's total equilibrium in America. So everything's perfect. The technocrats are in charge, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing to worry about. And just focus on Greenland and renaming the Gulf of Mexico, stealing the Panama Canal.
That's
and
right.
acquiring Canada as a 51st state. I mean, wow, that is something. It's great. It's all good. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything. House is burning. The country's burning down. Everything's fine. Everything is absolutely fine. Guys, it's been real. I appreciate you staying for this extended edition. Really appreciate it. A lot to cover, and I think we did a fair job doing it. Take care, and we will see you all very soon. Appreciate you all. Basil, Ruckus,
thank you.
Hesher, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for today. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen, and we will be going out with some of the music of Red Rumble and Joseph Arthur. And a big reminder, if you like these broadcasts and the content, the great work, Freddie Ponton is just doing some amazing journalism at 21stcenturywire.com. Consider donating in our winter fundraising drive here. This is how we support this platform, all of our different platforms. We have many, but 21st Century Wire is the main hub.com, been going since 2009. So we've been around for a while. We're staying around, and we're only getting better and going higher and doing better work and championing and supporting independent journalists and broadcasters as well, ladies and gentlemen. So consider supporting our operation during this winter fundraising drive. Subscribe monthly and become a member at 21st Century Wire, 21wire.tv. That's our members site. That's about right around $5 per month. Makes a huge difference. If you guys can find it to support us, we really appreciate it. That's all we have time for. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. This has been the Sunday Wire episode 531 of this weekly Omnibus news and analysis radio program. Keep an eye on our feed. There's a lot that's going to be happening this week. Keep an eye on our website, and hope to hear from you guys soon. See you next time. All the best. And Bo, by the way, if you're able to, please consider going to the social media accounts of Hesher Media. They're tagged on our X live stream, Hesher Media, at Hesher Media, and also Adam Ruckus Clark is AC_wordslinger. Basil Valentine's been banned from X because he took on and destroyed the IDF's spokesperson, and for that he's been punished. That makes Basil a martyr in the information wars. He is literally a martyr. So all we can do, we will erect a monument to the Basil Valentine Twitter account, and we will pay homage to that on regular intervals. He did a great service there and really took one for the team, folks. Basil is puts his money where his mouth is. Anyway, follow all these guys on social media, support them, support all in the good independent media and good independent journalists wherever you see them. Help them, support them, donate to them, subscribe, whatever you got to do. It's us, folks. I'm not going to use Elon's slug line. You know what we're talking about. That's why you're here. Take care, you guys. All the best.
In the final analysis, we all inhabit this small planet, and we are all mortal.
Lately I've been watching the world gone mad, brothers and sisters full to take a stand, to hate their fellow man and other man. Divide and conquer is the acronym plan. Distract the people, control the story. Don't believe your lying eyes, you know me. Stay in power no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye and gather your trust. Pushing us to turn to good. Corruption and lies. Truth is the crime, will turn to gold. Well-designed misery to keep you on edge, make you believe anything anyone says. Keep it left or right, not top or bottom. Accuse the victim, can't you see we got 'em? Stay in power no matter what. Playing with the doomsday clock. Turn a blind eye genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason, 'cause human beings are more than just a kind, defined by race or religion. 'Cause we all have souls and a mission here on earth. Only God knows why. You can't decide their death, 'cause you weren't here for their birth or their first laugh or cry. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers. Genocide is never justified. There ain't no reason, 'cause human beings are more than just a kind, defined by race or religion. 'Cause we all have souls and a mission here on earth. Only God knows why. You can't decide their death, 'cause you weren't here for their birth or their first laugh or cry. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers. Don't let the children die. Don't let the children die. Sisters and brothers, we know it's wrong when we see their fathers cry with their mothers.
Supervised contact. They watch our every move. They examine our togetherness like we've got something to prove. I've looked behind your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've looked into your eyes. I've seen the sadness you hide. I've seen the tears that you've cried. No, I won't get used to these chains. No, I won't get used to these chains. In the legal arena, upset theaters are staged. She moves in circles, her cruel games cause delays. From the questions you ask me, like why can't you come home tonight? From the moment you hold me, it's the shortest hour of my life. No, I won't get used to these chains. They say I've got to be careful with what I say. Their conspiracy of silence, they think the truth will lead you astray. They say that they're here for you, but they never listen to what you say. They've built walls between us. I will walk through walls to break these chains. No, I won't get used to these chains. No, I won't get used to these chains.